Okay. Happy Monday. How y'all doing? Come on in, come on in, come on in. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Are y'all ready to go? Are y'all ready? We are getting back to our regularly scheduled programming. We're jumping right back on into this trial. I can't wait. I got my coffee. Let me know what your morning drink is. I'm an Americano girl, iced with cream. That's it. I'm ready to go. I am so ready to go. As you guys can see, I spent some time building the studio. Still got a little bit of lighting on this side to do, but for the most part, we're ready to go. I've got my I don't recall shirts on. And you know what's so funny about y'all? You never let me forget in the comments when I make a mistake. So allegedly, Lil Woody is not going to be on the stand today. He's going to be on the stand tomorrow. And what we are going to see today is the judge continuously ruling on some outstanding motions. We have one from Max Shard. We're going to get back to all of that good stuff and get back to regularly scheduled programming. In addition to that, today is a huge day. You want to know why? Because Melnick, Lil Woody's attorney before Kayla, is going to be taking the stand today. And allegedly, he is saying that the secret meeting transcript is not complete. The one that was released and one that I read to you guys was not the complete transcript. So we're going to hear from him a little bit today. And it should be an action-packed day. I'm doing this 9 to 5. We're ready to go all day. We will be here. We'll do a morning session, and then I will do an afternoon session for you guys. Tomorrow's a big day, and I'm really excited because tomorrow we're going to do that over on Lead Side. So that's your morning announcements. Let me just make sure that our banner is good to go. And we're going to dive right on into the stream and get started. But again, let me know where you guys are tuning in from, and let me know what's your morning coffee. What is your morning coffee? What's your morning drink? Some of you guys might like different things. I am excited to see all of that. But without further delay, let's jump on into the trial feed. And we see Judge Whitaker there, and let's get going. Looks like she's jumping in. Is there sound?
We have
all right, here we go.
Busy weekend. I'm sure y'all all work just like I did. I know we have Mr. Melnick outside, and he wants to put some things on the record.
Oh, Melnick is there, guys.
We can do that first off. Is there anything anybody wants to address before that?
Did Thug get his hair done?
Your Honor, after or before Mr. Melnick addresses the court, if the court would be so kind as to just apprise the parties of
shout out to the A.
what it is that we will need to, if anything, address.
Oof.
I mean,
as it relates to what he's putting on the record.
I don't really know. I think that he kind of mainly wants to make a record of what he perceives to have actually occurred. And I don't know that, as I think I mentioned on Friday, I'm not sure that it's particularly going to be relevant to any of the issues in the case, but I'm going to let him make a brief statement or proffer, and we'll go from there.
You sound frustrated.
And then the next issue after that I'd like for us to sort out is the representation made by Mr. Steele at the end of the day, Friday, that he has a good faith basis to believe that there may have been an unrecorded conversation at some point that included Ms. Hilton, Ms. Bumpus, and Mr. Copeland that may have resulted in some Brady material. So that'll be next up, and then we'll see after that. All right, so if somebody wants to let Mr. Melnick come on in.
All right, guys, it's going down.
I would just object to Mr. Melnick coming in offering anything that is not relevant to the trial itself, understanding what the court's ruled or decided.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Thank you.
What is he going to say? Are they going to get him? And guys, the judge does sound annoyed because they have been working over the weekend on some of this stuff. So this is interesting that we're starting right off with Melnick. And I wonder what they were working on over the weekend. And guys, again, I covered the morning session. I did not cover the afternoon session. A lot of stuff was discussed. And, you know, again, we saw a lot of things on Friday that were really centered on Lil Woody's testimony. They wanted to get that done before tomorrow, before the jury comes back, before Lil Woody comes back, because it was a tedious process. We had to go through all of those pieces of evidence. And both the defense side and the prosecution side had to determine what was going to come in. All right, looks like we got sound back. There he is. There he is, guys. Here comes Melnick. What is he about to say? We're starting off with T.
Mr. Melnick, if you want to come on up, and I understand that you want to make a proffer of what occurred, I guess, on June 6th and June 7th. Let me just say that, you know, I think it goes without saying that people can perceive the same thing in different ways, depending upon the perspective they're standing at the time. And I am going to permit you to make a brief proffer of what you believe happened. I do not think, based on what I have reviewed, that you were laboring under any conflict of interest. I don't even know that at this point in time, any of that is particularly relevant, but I can understand you wanting to put something on the record. I would like for you to stick to the facts to the extent you can, keep emotion out of it, and go ahead.
So, Judge, basically what it comes down to is after receiving the transcripts from the two ex parte hearings that took place, or ex parte meetings that took place between Judge Glanville and the district attorney's office, and then with Ms. Bumpus and Mr. Copeland in tow, the allegation has been made that I was somehow acting in conjunction with Mr. Steele and Mr. Shart and other members of the defense team in this case, which is categorically untrue.
Okay.
I am unfortunately in a difficult position as it relates to this issue, because what I would need to produce from a documentary standpoint to rebut these allegations are privileged communications between myself and Mr. Copeland.
Okay.
But my presence, so starting with June the 6th, I sent an email to Ms. Hilton, Ms. Love,
Hit the like button, y'all.
Mr. Steele, and Mr. Shart, stating that Mr. Copeland wanted to take the fifth, did not wish to testify. On the 7th, I was shown an order that was signed on June the 7th, stating that Mr. Copeland was being given transactional immunity. At no point, and I think what really bothers me is that at no point did anybody from the DA's office before that time, within any relevant time frame, reach out to me and just ask me if I was representing Kenneth Copeland for purposes of his testifying in this trial. Everybody in this room that has been involved in this case from the beginning has known that I was representing Kenneth Copeland.
All right, and I know because you had a case before me
With Mr. Copeland.
that resolved in June of 2023.
That's
so
correct.
I know that as of that point, you were representing him.
Yes.
And then following the resolution of that case, he did not have any more pending charges.
He did
correct?
not, that's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
All right, so that was a year ago.
So at a minimum, I feel it was incumbent on the district attorney's office to reach out to me just to ask that question. Now, as far as what communications took place between the DA's office and Mr. Copeland, I don't know exactly. But I do know that on June the 6th, he and I spoke, and he told me that he wished to assert his Fifth Amendment privilege. And so I sent that email The transactional immunity order was granted on June the 7th, which I find the timing there to be, let's just say, ironic, in that apparently they were going to have Mr. Copeland testify without any grant of immunity, because it was the state's intended purpose to call him as a witness on June the 7th. And so I was here on June the 7th. I told the court what Mr. Copeland's intentions were. There was a lot of back and forth. Obviously, Mr. Copeland was taken into custody on June the 7th, and then everything that happened on June the 10th. I don't have to go over all
Yeah,
that.
I've read all of that.
Yes. So my purpose here today is to state on the record that absolutely, nothing that I said or did on Mr. Copeland's behalf was done in any conjunction or with any consultation, in cahoots, or anything along those lines with Mr. Steele or Mr. Shart or anybody else in the defense team.
Well, before we even move on, I'm sorry, I need to interject there. That is his purpose. That is what he's telling us his purpose of showing up is today. Now, if you guys remember, there are multiple motions, there are multiple documents, there are multiple instances where the state has alleged that Brian Steele, Melnick, and Max Shart were in cahoots, and they had some type of conspiracy, right? To, kind of for Melnick to help out the defense, right? We know that that is not true. That's categorically false on its face. That is not correct, okay? So Melnick is there to explain that. And at the same time, what he's saying is true. This judge just admitted that she knew that he had represented Lil Woody in the past. He has a good point in saying, even if they thought that Lil Woody was unrepresented, it's still your job to check, right? And, the fact that the judge she said she had personal knowledge that Melnick had represented Lil Woody before. The other thing that he just mentioned, that they were going to have immunity.
All right.
I was here doing what my client had expressed to me, what he wanted to do. And as I said, if it becomes a major issue, I have more than enough documentation to prove that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Mhm.
It's not an issue at all to this court.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. That's it.
That's it.
Wow. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Steele, you had said to us on Friday afternoon that you had a good faith basis for believing that there may have been a conversation you believe during
Be right back, guys. I'm going to plug into the wall.
June 10th ex parte in chambers meeting at some point when Judge Glanville was not in the room, but between Ms. Bumpas, who was acting as counsel for the day for Mr. Copeland and Prosecutor Hilton. So can you give me what your basis is for that? Otherwise, we might just move on.
I just have a couple of questions, if it's okay,
All right.
for Mr. Melnick.
Oh, well, I think may have already walked out. I didn't realize that. I thought this was kind of to let him have a chance to clear the record. What are your questions going to be?
Just about the representations made about an email with a BCC and it was sent inadvertently. I believe that he'll say that that's not accurate. And then we sent your honorable court on Friday all of the emails. If you put them in order.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I've seen it. I think that's fine if you want to ask him that and clarify it. I don't think that Ms. Love made a representation that that is in fact what happened. That was her theory because she couldn't figure out why Mr. Melnick was referring to her in the third person. But sure, you can ask him that.
Can I just ask you a couple more questions? And Your Honor, I'll move the admission of all those emails, and I have copies for them if that makes it easier, and we can mark them as an exhibit if that's what you want. They were already sent to your honorable court.
If you've got them now and can make them an exhibit, and I'm not sure exactly what courts, you would make them
Sure.
a defense exhibit.
Can I just step back for a second?
Sure.
And Your Honor, would the court be admitting those exhibits for any purpose as it relates to this trial?
No, not for the trial, just for whatever these ancillary proceedings are. I'm not sure what to call them, but motions. So it'll be, I guess, an exhibit to, we can call this a motions hearing. It's today, August 5th, 2024. Proffer by Mr. Melnick.
So, Mr. Melnick, have you looked at and reviewed all of the emails that you have given and the state has given on this topic?
Not-
Do you want me to be sworn? Do I need to be sworn for this? I don't think I've been sworn.
Not for me. You're an officer of the court.
Yes, I have.
Hang on. Yes, Ms. Love.
You responded to what I was asking. I didn't
Okay.
know.
I have reviewed the emails.
I have to mark these.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Deirdre. We fixed that problem.
This to the state.
Yep.
You give that to the state. I'm just putting them in
Sure.
date and time order. Then I'll mark.
Yep, I've reviewed them.
This is not up with that era.
Thank you, Queen Bee. All right, they froze the feed for a second, and shout out to Queen Bee and Deirdre. Yeah, guys, I had to hardwire into the wall. I got a long cable that goes across this house to make sure that in the event that the stream freezes, your girl is good. So thank you guys for the reminder. But okay, it looks like this is now becoming a motions meeting, right? Now Brian Steele is up there, and I missed it because I had to walk away for a moment, but it looks like there's going to be a motion presented in front of the judge. Melnick is about to be sworn in. He's presenting a copy over to the prosecution side, and it looks like Judge Whitaker stepped away for a second. So it's interesting to see all this stuff happening live in court. Here she is. She is back. That is her assistant. And that is the court stenographer. We have a different stenographer this time. So it depends on the judge. Usually we'll have another. Melnick is passing the prosecution team something else. We do not see Hilton in the courtroom this morning. So that's also another observation. She is not in that first chair. Maybe she'll be joining us late. Who knows?
7/11/56, we have that.
Y'all are like Goldilocks. They're like, you're too loud. Okay, this mic is on the lowest setting that it could possibly be on. Hopefully that is better for the Goldilocks people in the chat. But yes, two things. What I was saying before was that we had a few things for Melnick, right? He said two things that were interesting. Number one, the first thing that he said was interesting is that they were going to have Lil Woody prosecute, They were going to have Lil Woody take the stand and give testimony without immunity. That's a big deal, because the other thing leading to point number two, what I was mentioning is that he kept saying, or the prosecution has inferred multiple times, that Brian Steele, Max Shard, and Melnick were working together to help the defense. Now he's saying, Judge, you have personal knowledge that I myself have represented Lil Woody. The prosecution didn't check with me to see if I was still representing Lil Woody before they spoke to him. Judge Whitaker said, yes, indeed, I myself, Judge Whitaker, have personal knowledge of you representing Lil Woody in the past. She didn't agree that they should have checked, but she said, I have personal knowledge of that as well. So let's see where we are, but I just wanted to bring you guys up to speed. Pardon the technology interruption, but let's get back to the feed and go from there. And I'm gonna see if I can skip through these dead spots. We got a little bit of TiVo time.
The judge. And
Okay,
thank you,
here
Your
we
Honor.
go.
Whenever you are.
Okay, I thought you were not ready. All right, and thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Melnick, thank you for your time.
Sure.
What you said to this honorable court is that you represented Mr. Copeland in an unrelated case. Is that true?
That's correct.
All right. Was there any discussion with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office members that you represented Mr. Copeland for purposes of being a witness in this trial that's before the Honorable Judge Whitaker?
Yes.
Can you explain that to us?
It goes back to 2021. I met with Don Geary, who at the time was, I guess, in charge of the state's handling of this case. And he talked to me extensively about Mr. Copeland, Mr. Copeland's involvement with YSL, and the fact that the state wished to use him as a witness in this case.
And did you make it clear from your viewpoint that you were representing Mr. Copeland in this case, meaning the case that's on trial before Judge Whitaker,
Yes.
as a witness or as a potential co-defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And that the Honorable Court knows, I believe, but to your knowledge, who is Don Geary in 2021?
What he introduced himself. I mean, I knew Don for a long time, but what he said, he was special counsel for the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. He was basically hired almost like in an of counsel position, as I understand it.
And was he affiliated on working this case that's before Judge Whitaker on trial?
We talked about this case specifically.
At any time, I'm sorry.
And nothing else.
At any time, did you or any member of the District Attorney's Office in your presence ever say that you were not representing Mr. Copeland pursuant to a potential witness in this trial?
No.
Okay. Did you ever have conversations with Ms. Love, who is seated to your left,
Yes.
about representing Mr. Copeland as a witness in this trial?
Yes.
And when were those conversations?
March of 2023.
And was it clear from your standpoint, from your viewpoint, as the court said, people can observe things differently, but from your standpoint, was it clear that you made it known to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office that you were representing Mr. Copeland as a witness or potential witness in this trial?
Yes, it was.
So she lied.
Did you do anything to separate yourself from that representation?
No.
All right. The Honorable Court stated a little while ago, and you left here so quickly, but that your representation ended of Mr. Copeland, I heard, in 2023 when you entered some sort of disposition. I don't remember what it was, before this Honorable Court. And when I say this Honorable Court, I'm talking about Judge Whitaker.
Sure. That's correct.
Did your representation end of Mr. Copeland as a witness in this case?
No.
Did you ever make that known to anybody?
No, I never did.
Did you actually do the opposite?
I was contacted by another member of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office in June of 2023.
And about
Yes,
what?
I'm sorry, about representing Mr. Copeland in this, as a witness in this case.
Were there any agreements between Mr. Copeland and yourself in the District Attorney's Office? Because you obviously got him not to be charged, or that's a bad way of saying it, but you obviously did or someone did something that he's not charged in this case.
I would honestly say that may not have been due to anything that I did or said necessarily. That I think was an internal decision from the DA's office.
Okay. All right. Now, I'd like to show you what I marked, and I just want this for the record. And I marked it number 1, Mr. Williams. And can you announce it just so the court, and we're going to give all this to the court, what this is, if you recognize it.
Sure.
And then go to number 2, 3. But for people looking on, just announce it by the title, if you don't mind. If you don't recognize it, please say that as well.
No, I recognize this. This is an email I sent to Ms. Love, Ms. Hill.
Oh, the email.
From the DA's office, yourself and Mr. Shart, dated June the 6th, 2024 at 4:31 p.m. You want me to read it, or?
Sure.
Says, good afternoon. All it has come to my attention that the Fulton County District Attorney's Office has questioned my client, Kenneth Copeland, without my knowledge or consent. Please be advised that my client does not wish to speak with any member of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, nor any law enforcement officer from this point forward. My client will assert his privilege under the
Way, it's
I
way
am
too
going
fast
fast,
for the
I'm
court
sorry.
reporter to take down.
You're with me, law enforcement, nor any law enforcement officer from this point forward. My client will assert his privilege under the Fifth Amendment tomorrow and will not testify. Thank you, John Melnick.
Okay. On the 6th, and you made it clear, to your knowledge, was there any type of immunity agreement whatsoever in place? Use immunity, transactional immunity, any type of agreement?
There was no response from the district attorney's office to this email to me. So I was not aware of any immunity, any offer of immunity to Mr. Copeland at that time.
Did you personally know that if Mr. Copeland testified at this trial without some sort of protection, by protection, I mean, whatever type of immunity, that he could be making statements that would incriminate himself?
Yes,
No statute of limitations ran?
Ooh, this is
So
not good.
I can't say that with absolute.
Okay, well, we're dealing with a bunch of lawyers, so I think Mr. Melnick can handle it. I'm going to overrule that.
I can't say with absolute certainty that I investigated it to the point where I would know whether the statute of limitations would have run or not.
About federal crimes for gun offenses?
No, as far as I know, again, I didn't do extensive research into it, but it's my understanding that it would not have run in terms of the federal statute. And Mr. Copeland, of course, has been charged previously and convicted in U.S. District Court. So once the feds have their eyes on you, they have their eyes on you.
And how about as a co-defendant in this case being indicted later? And the statute of limitations barred to that?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know with absolute certainty.
Okay. Were you concerned that if he testified when you wrote this email, the one you just announced as Mr. Williams #1, that he could be facing criminal liability?
I absolutely was.
All right. Is that the reason you wrote that email?
Among other things, but that is one reason why I wrote the email.
Was there anything in your mind at the time of sending it that was suspicious or clandestine or by CCing the Honorable Maxwell Shard or myself on that email?
Not at all. I thought everybody had a right to know.
Okay. And everybody being?
Everybody from the prosecution and the defense team.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, move for the admission of Mr. Williams #1 for purposes of this hearing.
It's admitted.
Can I just get clarification as to which of the emails we don't have the number is Defendant Williams #1?
Can you
Yeah.
clarify?
June 6, 2024, 4:31 p.m. to yourself, Ms. Hilton, Mr. Steele, Mr. Shaw.
Does it have the response at 4:57?
Look at Lead. He's right. Can y'all get my likes up? Can I get my likes up? He says I should lock y'all
So
out.
I mean, is there a response on there
There's not a
on
response.
Williams 1?
There will be, Your Honor.
Okay,
Not
so
on this
that
Williams
has
one.
been, for purposes of the record, the one that does not have the response on it.
Okay. Okay, so here's the response.
But well,
Is it a part of Williams 1?
No, it's not.
Okay, so I assume Mr. Steele might ask you about the next one. Go ahead.
and that is, I'd like to show you what's in front of you, Mr. Williams, exhibit #2 for purposes of today's hearing, okay?
Mhm. Yes.
Tell us, take your time to look at it, tell us if you can identify it, if it's true and accurate for what it appears.
I hope this is from I think exclusively from Ms. Hilton to me.
But do you recognize it?
I do, I
Is
recognize
that
it.
accurate?
Yes, it is.
You're almost at
Your Honor,
half.
move
You're
for
almost
this
there.
hearing, Mr. Williams #2, after you identify it, so everyone knows what you're looking for.
June 6, 2024, 4:57 p.m. I hope good as addressed to me. Good afternoon. I hope all is well. In our conversations with Mr. Copeland, he advised that you were not his attorney and he had not spoken with you. However, if you are asserting that you are his attorney, we will cease communication, but your client is under subpoena and is expected to be here at 8:30 a.m. It is our understanding that your client does not have transportation, so we're planning to pick him up. So please make sure that he is present so we do not have to take any further action if he fails to appear for his subpoena. Thank you and have a great evening. And then it's from Ms. Hilton.
And did you respond to that email? And if yes, is it on Mr. Williams #2? And what does it say in time and date? If you don't-
It is. I did respond. It's dated June 6th at 5:47 p.m. Again with CCs.
Y'all
to
did it.
everybody
Thank
in
you
the
so
case.
much for getting the likes up. Thank you, Lead,
I've
for the
been
reminder.
Mr. Copeland's attorney. He tells me that he repeatedly told you that that when you were questioning him. I also spoke with Don Geary extensively about Mr. Copeland when he was assigned to this case, and I spoke with Ms. Love.
Slow down. Slow down.
I spoke with Ms. Love early in the process around the time jury selection was beginning. I have a plea with Judge Carnicel tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and I will come to the courtroom as soon as I'm done.
Is everything that you responded about being Mr. Copeland's lawyer for purposes of this case true?
Yes.
And the court already admitted number 2. If you could go to number
Well,
3.
no, I haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I moved for the admission of Mr. Williams, number 2.
It's admitted, and that one contains both Ms. Hilton's response and then Mr. Melnick's response back that he just read. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's admitted.
Okay. This is a repeat, some withdrawing. Okay. Okay, if we go to Mr. Williams, number 3, can you take a look at this and tell us whether you recognize it? And if yes, what is it?
It's
Your Honor, if we could just have what that is, and we don't have numbers on it, if I could just have what it is that you're even tendering.
I don't know, I don't know how many things you got handed, but Mr. Melnick's about to describe it.
It's dated June 7th, 2024, 11:52 a.m. It's from me to Miss Hilton and Miss Love. The first sentence says, "Here is a communication between myself and Miss Love, which pertains directly to the YSL case." And it's a forwarded message from a number of people, including myself and your case manager, Sheila Rosser, dated March the 3rd of 2023.
And real quick, guys, for those of you that are just popping in, what are we looking at right now? We're looking at Jonathan Melnick, who is Lil Woody's attorney, right? We are having a proffer, I think it's like a motions hearing right now. Brian Steele is in the process of conducting it. We are now admitting into evidence all of the emails between the prosecution team and Melnick. Why are we doing that? The reason why we're doing that, we're walking through each email one by one because the state keeps contending that they did not know that Lil Woody was represented by Melnick when he indeed was. There's also this contention that the defense team was working together in cahoots to try to help the defense. What Steele is doing, he's going to admit all of these pieces of evidence to combat what they're saying. The state has an opportunity right now to object to some of those emails coming in. We saw email number 1 come in. We saw email number 2 come in. And as a recap, email number 1 was the initial email that Melnick sent to the prosecution's office where he said, "It is my understanding that you guys are talking to Lil Woody without me being there. I'm not involved in this process. I have spoken to him. He does not wish to speak to law enforcement. He does not wish to cooperate with the prosecution team. He does plan on invoking his Fifth Amendment right." Before it got hot, he went to them in a super professional manner. That was email number 1. Email number 2 is Simone. She responded, right? And now we are in the middle of email number 3. And again, shout out to the lead attorney. He and I will be back at it tomorrow. I'm flying solo today, but he's right. Please continue to get the likes up as you drop in. But let's get back to this hearing because this is getting really, really good.
And it's from Ms. Love, stating, "Good morning, Ms. Rosser. State asks that the defendant be required to sign the conditions in front of a notary or a sheriff's official so that we can enforce the conditions upon his release since he was not apprised by the court in person." And I'm sorry, that is in reference to 2 bond orders, I believe, that I had prepared and presented to the court in reference to Mr. Copeland's case that was pending before you in 2023. That is an email dated Thursday, March 2nd, 2023 at 4:42 p.m. And this is just a chain of emails related to the bond order for Mr. Copeland's case in 2023.
All right, and you're forwarding that in June of 2024 to say, see, you knew at some point I
Yes.
was representing him. Okay.
That's correct, Judge.
Is that document, is defendant Williams a 3-page document or just the one portion of the chain that you just?
So this is a continuation?
Yes.
Great. Okay. There's more to it, Ms. Love.
Is it a 3-page
It
document?
appears to be, I think it appears to be a 3-page document. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Do you need me to, I don't need to read all of this.
No, I don't think so.
We move for the admission of Mr. Williams, number 3, for purposes of today's hearing.
It's admitted.
Why did you, Mr. Melnick, why did you send this to the district attorney's office on June 7th, 2024, 11:52 a.m.?
Because of what they claim to be the confusion as to whether or not I was representing Mr. Copeland for purposes of his being a witness in this case. I think these emails demonstrate that I did in fact represent him and that they knew I represented him.
And were there conversations that you represented Mr. Copeland for the witness in the YSL case during that time?
Yes, there were.
And who did you speak with?
Miss Love.
Okay. And you're responding to Mr. Williams number 2 that's already in evidence?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, I move for the admission of Mr. Williams number 3. It is a 3-page document.
It's admitted.
Wow, judge is letting them all in.
I'm going to mark this as Mr. Williams number 4. Can you take a look at this and tell us if you recognize this?
I do.
What is it? Okay. And what is that?
It's an email that I also sent on June the 7th, 2024 at 11:54 a.m. To Miss Hilton and Miss Love, referencing another communication I had from the district attorney's office. It was a forwarded message from Peachtree offices, which is an executive office company that answers my phone for me, where I got a message from Peter Herzog asking me to contact him in reference to Kenneth Copeland. So it's a forwarded message from June the 27th of 2023 that I then forwarded to Miss Hilton and Miss Love, demonstrating that they should have just communicated with me about Copeland before questioning him.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
And before we got into all this.
And who is Peter? And I'm going to spell the last name, okay?
Yeah.
Herzog. Who is that person to your knowledge?
I believe his last name is misspelled there. I think it's Herzog, but Peter Herzog is the assistant DA in the Fulton DA's office.
And Mr. Williams, what's marked as number 4, is sent for that message on June 27, 2023, about 3 months after the March 1, 2023
Yes,
correspondence with Ms. Love about Mr. Copeland.
that's correct.
Now, if your representation of Mr. Copeland had in fact ended when you disposed of the case before the Honorable Judge Whitaker by that time, do you remember? Did it end?
So my case with Judge Whitaker, is that what you're
Yes.
asking me about?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it had, but honestly, I haven't gone back to check
If
it.
y'all have the case number, I can look it up and let you know the disposition date.
I don't have it.
Happy to do that. Nobody has it.
And maybe
It was a 22 SC case, but that's all I know.
And guys, sorry, I need to stop this one moment. Shout out to HVM in the chat who has just dropped $100 super chat. Thank you so much, HVM. You are the stream sponsor. Of course, when people, bless us like this, I like to stop and acknowledge them right away. HVM, thank you so much. Super, super generous. Guys, he's sponsoring today's stream. We just got started. We're only 37 minutes in to this clown show, and look at what we're seeing so far. HVM, thank you so much for being a valued partner in this community and a valued person that is actually funding this stuff. You guys see all these lights and all this, the shenanigans, the Wi-Fi goes out. Like, this is a one-man production, not even man. This is a one-woman production over here. So the fact that you are supporting me this generously is amazing. Thank you guys so much for shouting him out in the chat. I will update the banner, and HVM, you have no idea how much you mean to me. Thank you so much for your camaraderie, your friendship, the support. I really, really appreciate it. And with that being said, I'm going to bring us back to the feed because we are on email number 4. It's heating up. And we are now learning that Love knew, many people in the prosecution's office knew that Melnick was Lil Woody's attorney. Why they continue to talk to him, knowing that he's represented, is what we are unraveling right now. Let's keep going.
It's fine. I can probably pull it up some other way. Y'all go ahead.
Okay. And you forward this, you said why? This
To-
message.
To reiterate the fact that the Fulton DA's office knew and should have known that I was representing Mr. Copeland for purposes of his testimony in the YSL trial. Mr. Herzog was never involved in the case before Judge Whitaker. I'd never spoken with him about anything related to the case in front of Judge Whitaker. The only attorneys that I ever spoke with about the actual disposition of the case with Judge Whitaker was Abigail Potter, Abby Potter from the DA's office, and Mr. Abadi. And the only reason Mr. Abadi was involved with it, that's Adam Abadi from the Fulton DA's office, was because he was concerned about Mr. Copeland's testimony in the YSL trial.
And obviously Miss Love, because she.
And Ms. Bond order. Yes, right. And
Same
Ms. Love
reason.
the bond order. That's correct.
Now, I'd like to show you Mr. Williams, number 5. Oh,
Can
Your
I-
Honor, I
can I-
move for the admission of Mr. Williams, number 4.
It's admitted, and for purposes of the record, the case before me where Mr. Melnick represented Mr. Copeland is 22 SC 182134, and the final disposition was actually on June 29th of 2023.
Is number 4 a one-page document, or are there any more?
It's a one-page document.
Okay, I'm showing you Mr. Williams, number 5. Tell us if you remember that, look at it.
I do.
Okay, and is it accurate?
It is.
Can you describe, like you've been doing, the date and time, what it is, what it purports to be?
Stated June the 7th of 2024. It's to Miss Love and Miss Hilton from me. And it is in response to an email that I received. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You can look at the documents, multiple.
Yeah, okay. So this is a part of the same chain of documents where I was referencing the fact that Miss Love certainly knew that I was representing Mr. Copeland. She and I talked extensively about Mr. Copeland, and she had told me that she wished to use Mr. Copeland as a witness in this case. Obviously, by the time we were having these communications in March of 2023, the case had long since been indicted, and Mr. Copeland was not charged as a party on the indictment of this case. So this is a continuation of the same emails going back to March 2nd and March 3rd of 2023, where we're referencing the bond orders. These emails actually go back to March the 1st of 2023, where Ms. Love is discussing whether or not Mr. Copeland should be subject to a curfew as part of his bond order. There are, I seem to remember, other communications in which Ms. Love references the fact that she's concerned about Mr. Copeland's safety and the like. And then so the last part of this email, which is at the top of the first page, is where Ms. Love questions whether my concern is for Mr. Copeland or Mr. Steele and Mr. Sharp's client, neither of whom I've ever met or have any relationship with whatsoever.
Ooh, there's the smoking gun, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're just walking in, a lot of people are complaining about the courtroom feed. The reason why it's hard to hear is because Melnick is not speaking into the microphone. You can hear Steele just fine. So I apologize for that. It's not me, guys. It's them. But I will, from time to time, just try to pop in to explain what's going on. What did we just hear? So what we just heard, we're on email number 5 that we're about to see if it's coming in or not, right? Now, here's the smoking gun. In this email, they had talked about Lil Woody's safety. They've talked about, Miss Love planning on using him as a witness in this case. They even talked about curfew, and they talked about bond. There is no way at all that Love did not know that he was represented by Melnick at this point. They knew. Several people in that office knew. And now I'm going to rewind that. I'm going to rewind that at least 30 seconds so you guys can hear what he just said. And listen very closely. This is serious. She knew. Why was this questioning allowed to happen is beyond me. But let's go back 30 seconds so y'all can hear that one more time.
Concern is for age, is where Ms. Love questions whether my concern is for Mr. Copeland or Mr. Steele and Mr. Sharp's client, neither of whom I've ever met or have any.
So she
relationship
fired
with
the first
whatsoever.
shot.
And then I responded to that.
Did I ever do anything untoward to affect your representation of your client, Mr. Copeland?
Absolutely not.
Did Mr. Shard do anything?
No.
Did anybody come to you, at you, about your representation, Mr. Copeland, in this case?
What Mr. Copeland did on June 7th of 2024, where he asserted his Fifth Amendment privilege, was entirely his decision. I was there just as his mouthpiece, as a lawyer, as his advocate for purposes of him asserting his Fifth Amendment privilege. Other than that, I have absolutely no agenda in this case whatsoever.
Wow.
When Ms. Love wrote on a motion, ex parte motion for the former judge, the recused Judge Glanville,
Your Honor, I would
grant
object
your
to
client.
the introduction through this witness or the posing to this witness of any question about a motion that I wrote, given that the witness cannot testify confidently about anything that I specifically wrote or what I.
All right, well, I don't know yet what the end of the question's going to be, so I'll hold your objection until I hear the question.
And it's in the record. Already, Your Honor, I could get another copy though. Ms. Love wrote in that motion seeking use immunity under 25-5-507 for Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
That Mr. Copeland on Thursday, June 6, 2024, had some sort of interaction or dealings with members of the defense team. To your knowledge, is that true?
I have no knowledge of that.
Wow.
All right.
Do you want to admit, or did you want to tender for admission Williams 5?
I do. Yes.
All right, that's admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Williams 5 was what?
Okay, Mr. Melnick, I don't have any other
Hang on. What are
questions.
you asking?
for
Hang on,
you.
hang on, Mr. Steele. What are you asking?
Just
What it is?
Which one is it? Yes.
It's
Just
the last
part
one
of
they
page?
discussed that, I don't know how many pages it is. I don't have any of it in front of me, but it's the last one they discussed that has the email from you asking who Mr. Melnick is most concerned about or something like that. And then Mr. Melnick's rather peppery response back.
Okay, so it's just, could the court ask for clarification, just one page or?
I don't know. 4 pages.
Mr. Melnick, were there any BCC? You know what a BCC is?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for asking.
Yeah.
Were there any?
We're all old enough to know that that
Right.
means blind carbon copy. A whole lot of
Hmm.
people don't know that anymore since we don't use carbon copies, but that's where somebody can see it, but the recipients who are CC don't know.
Yes, I did not blind
Mhm.
copy anybody on that last email. I just sent it to Ms. Hilda and Ms. Love. I
Any
believe
out-
Ms. Hilda and Ms. Love.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Any allegation that there was some sort of teamwork or conspiracy against the state of Georgia and against your client, Mr. Copeland, is that true at all?
It is categorically untrue.
I want to thank you so much. I don't have any other.
Guys, oh my God. I'm sorry. I had to hold that in. I had to hold that in. Listen. So we just walked through all 5 emails and we just left off on number 5. I hear Max Shard's about to come up in a second. Now, what are we looking at? We start with email 1, Melnick emails them like, hey, you're talking to my client. Email 2, they go back and forth. And, I think email 2 was with Simone. Email 3 was just them kind of talking through it. Email 4, same thing. Email 5 is when Love fires the first shot. She says, whose best interest do you have? Lil Woody's, or is it Brian Steele and Max Shard? That's when he responds and says, fuck you. Sorry to swear. But that's when he said, fuck you. What are you talking about? She fired the first shot. She was rude first. He's trying to do the right thing by making sure that his client's rights are protected. And it doesn't look good because Brian Steele just asked him, he said, you know what a BCC is, right? On an email. He says, yes. He goes, did you blind copy anybody on this email? He said, no. And Love put that stuff in her motion. Do you guys remember if you want to go fast, go alone? You remember that? We looked at those emails. But looking at her face right now, you can even see that Judge Whitaker was like, okay, it's really unprofessional. It's really unprofessional. And she even said, okay, Mr. Melnick had a peppery response. But those are things that ended up in motions. Crazy. This is getting good. And, you could hear that she's really not objecting. She's objecting to compound questions. She's asking questions like, oh, how long is this document? Is it 2 pages? Is it 3? It's going down, guys. I'm so happy to be watching this with you together. But let's go back in.
Ms. Love, do you have questions of Mr. Melnick? Hang on just a second.
Just briefly.
Okay, hang on. You have questions too? All right, I'll let Mr. Sharp go.
Come on, Max.
And those are the court's copies.
Okay.
Mr. Melnick, if you're more comfortable taking the witness stand, that's fine, but, okay.
Mr. Melnick, good morning.
Good morning.
As part of your representation of Mr. Copeland, as part of your representation of Mr. Copeland. Yes, sir. Did you also make it known, did you make your representation known to the defense counsel in this case, specifically myself and Mr. Steele?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. In your dealings with the defense in this case, have myself or Mr. Steele ever gone behind your representation, to your knowledge, and attempted to speak to Mr. Copeland without your knowledge and understanding?
I have no knowledge of that. I'm not aware of any time that would have happened.
Since you were alerted about the state speaking to Mr. Copeland, have you read the transcripts from the ex parte communications?
I have mostly read them. I will be honest and say I haven't read the whole thing.
Okay. Have you become aware that Mr. Copeland was speaking to the state in the week leading up to June 7th, 2024?
Yes.
Okay. Have you become aware that Mr. Copeland was in the actual courthouse speaking to the state on that week?
I became aware of that on either June 6th or June 7th.
Did you know anything about that as it was happening?
I did not.
Before you reached out to the state via those emails that have been introduced, did the state ever tell you that they were communicating with your client?
No.
How did you initially learn that the state was communicating with your client?
Are you referencing the week leading up to June 7th of 2024?
Yes, let me ask in a more precise manner.
Mhm.
Did you become aware on Thursday, June 6, 2024, that the state had been speaking to your client that week?
Yes.
And did you become aware that the state intended to call your client to the stand on the next day, that Friday?
Yes.
Okay. Did you, and how did you find out about the state's plans to call your witness to the stand?
I believe you called me.
Could you say it again?
You called me.
You being
Yes.
Max Sharp?
Yes.
Okay. And I called you on the telephone?
Yes.
Okay. In that conversation, did I ever ask you to do anything on behalf of myself or Mr. Steele or our clients?
Absolutely not.
Guys, that's
Did I
courtroom.
ever ask you to
I'm muted.
stop Mr. Copeland from testifying?
Absolutely not.
As a lawyer, is it appropriate to contact another lawyer about their client?
Objection, Your Honor, as to this witness being qualified to speak about what are in the ethics.
I would hope that every lawyer in the state of Georgia is qualified to speak on what we're expected to do under our code of ethics. I'm going to overrule that.
Oh,
In your experience as a lawyer, is it appropriate for another lawyer to contact you about matters concerning your client?
That's law school 101.
And is that what I did on Thursday, June 6, 2024?
Yes.
Mr. Melnick, before you got in, well, your testimony is you were involved representing Mr. Copeland
Yes.
throughout this entire period, correct?
Mhm.
Before you emailed the district attorney's office about their communications with your client that you were unaware of. To your knowledge, had Mr. Copeland been granted any sort of immunity or legal protections for his testimony?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay, after you contacted this district attorney's office and actively communicated with them about your client, what protections was Mr. Copeland granted?
Use immunity.
I have nothing further. Thank
All
you.
right. Any other defense attorney with questions for Mr. Melnick? All right, hearing no other. Go ahead, Ms. Love.
Here we go.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Melnick, I'm just gonna be a little bit brief and I'm gonna clarify some things. Is defendants Williams exhibit? Yes, Mr. Hart.
Or speak just more loudly,
Fair.
or come around and, yeah,
You know what? I'll take
Okay.
the stand.
okay.
I just can't get these.
You can leave them there.
Okay.
It's okay.
Does somebody have a copy of those exhibits for the court?
Judge, I'll give to the court the ones that he has admitted and I'll just go ahead and use the ones that I have copies.
Okay, thank you.
He's taking the stand, y'all. She does not look happy.
Just pull that mic down towards you and make sure the green is on. Mr. Melnick, there
Oh.
should be some buttons somewhere.
You see where it is?
Green.
I don't actually see it. It sounds to me like it's on.
Yeah, sounds like it's on. All right, go ahead, Ms. Love.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Melnick, and Your Honor, I'm going to use, unless the court instructs me otherwise, I'm going to use the copies that I was given, that I've marked as defendants the way that they've indicated they should be marked exhibits.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Melnick, I'm showing you what is the copy of Defendants Exhibit 1
Yes.
that was given to the state and to the court. Is this an exact copy of Defendants Exhibit 1 that I'm showing you?
I believe so. I mean, I haven't printed them up. I don't know if there was another email that was.
Y'all are welcome to just use these if you want. That doesn't need to be an issue. I mean, they were handed to you, Ms. Love, by Mr. Steele, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then they ought to be exact copies.
May I refer to them?
Just a second. Mr. Harvey, yes, can you not hear? Oh, me? Okay, sorry. I was just saying, I'm sure that the copies are the same unless, but if she wants to use the admitted copies, she can.
Yeah, but she's not speaking into the
I'll
mic.
trade you. How about that?
Yes.
How is she gonna clean this up?
Just make sure you get the admitted copies to the court reporter when we're finished with this.
Yes.
Thank you.
So showing you what has been admitted as Defendant Williams Exhibit number 1.
Yes.
Looking at Defendants Williams Exhibit number 1, is that an extraction? In other words, is that a portion of an email cut out and isolated from a larger email?
I don't believe so.
Then I'm going to show you Defendant
She's trying to say that that their first exhibit was just a
Now, I
part.
just may need the portions that I gave to the court, because I don't see.
All right, here you go.
Yep.
I love Whitaker.
All right. All right. Showing you what I will mark as State's Exhibit
This is terrible.
1, copy of Defendant Williams Exhibit 1, Melnick Crawford. And I was provided this by Mr. Williams, Your Honor.
By Mr. Steele.
Yes. Could you look at what I've now labeled as State's Exhibit 1 and compare it to what has been admitted as Defendant's Exhibit 1 and tell me whether or not those two documents, State's Exhibit 1, just for the purposes of the record, is a one-page document. Could you tell me whether these two documents contain the content from the same email?
So the content appears to be the same, other than the fact that on the one that you just marked, there what appears to be the seal from the Fulton County, the Atlanta
Oh
Judicial
my
Circuit.
God.
And in fact, the one that I've marked as State's Exhibit 1 is the actual email that Mr. Steele would have had access to, correct? It's a portion of the actual email chain, given that it has that seal on it.
Very often, if I'm sending an email, I'll just pick up from the last email that I sent to or from that individual. So that may well be, there may have been a prior email, but I mean, if it was between you and I don't remember exactly when it was.
I'm showing you what has, I believe, been marked as Defendant Williams Exhibit number 2. Let's see if those two match. Give me 1 second, okay?
He's trying to say because it doesn't have an email signature, it's not the whole
Williams
email.
Exhibit 2.
Mhm.
So you'd agree with me that
So
Defendant Williams Exhibit 2 is in fact the top portion of the email that I have labeled and tendered as State's Exhibit, or not yet tendered, but labeled as State's Exhibit 1.
yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, the state tenders State's Exhibit 1 just as evidence.
All right,
All right. Now,
admitted.
thank you, Deb. So looking at Defendant Williams Exhibit 2 and State's Exhibit 1, are you able now to say with any more clarity that Defendant Williams Exhibit 1 is a document, a piece of paper where a portion of the email chain that is contained within Defendant Williams 2 and State's Exhibit 1 has been extracted and pasted onto a piece of paper?
So I can't speak for how Mr. Steele printed this up. I wasn't there in his office when he did that, or whenever somebody in his office did that. You are correct that what has been marked here as Mr. Williams Exhibit number 2 is part of a chain of communications between myself, yourself, Ms. Hilton, Mr. Steele, and Mr. Shart. Looks like there's a CC to Antonio Long as well. Yeah, so but these emails were sent after the State's Exhibit 1, which is also Mr. Williams Exhibit number 1. These emails date, so you can see here, Ms. Love, this is dated June 6, 2024, 5:47 p.m. Yeah, this is dated June 6, 2024, 4:31 p.m. Right. So this is just part of the same line of communications that we were having, where I said, Mr. Copeland doesn't want to plead, doesn't want to testify, wants to take the fifth. Ms. Hilton responds, and then I respond to her response. And in her response, this is where you get your insignia for the Atlanta Judicial Circuit.
Okay, so let me be clearer. The exhibit that is labeled Defendant Williams Exhibit 1, did you ever forward that separately to Mr. Steele or Mr. Sharp?
I think I just forwarded. I mean, I wouldn't have had to because they got the emails. Right.
Okay.
So
Oh my God, guys, I'm sorry. I can't hold it in. What she is failing to do here is like, the subject matter is you shouldn't have been talking to Woody because you knew he was represented. That's what the subject matter is. Talk about scrambling and scraping to the max. She is sitting here really trying to say, okay, well, because we don't have the full email chain, that negates what I'm doing. I think that's what I suspect. that she's trying to make it seem like it was negated or it was doctored. But at the end of the day, even if you go down this line of questioning, even if you're trying it, even if you're reaching, she's reaching, guys, she's reaching. It does not change the fact that you knew he was represented and still talked to him anyway. And notice, you could tell she's fired up. She ain't even at the podium anymore. She is in this man's face, using the same goddamn mic, screaming at him. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that or it's just me. This is a travesty to watch on TV. I mean, oh my God.
So they got this email initially.
All right, y'all, when y'all are saying this email, we have no idea
I got
what
you.
you mean. Can you refer to the exhibit numbers?
They got Mr. Williams' email number one, exhibit number one, which is the first email from June 6th at roughly 4:30 p.m. Then there was a response from Ms. Hilton, June 6th, 4:57 p.m.
And that's marked Williams too.
Williams too, thank you. And then there, I respond to that, June 6th, 5:47 p.m.
Okay, so
And that's also on Williams
two,
right?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
so as it pertains to my original question, defendant Williams Exhibit 1 was never a communication that you sent separate from the emails that are contained in defendant Williams 2 and Stacy Exhibit 1. Is that wrong or right?
That is wrong.
Okay, so you sent, without forwarding the rest of what is labeled as defendant Williams 2 and Stacy Exhibit 1, you sent an email that contained only the document that is labeled Defendant's Exhibit 1 to Mr. Sharp, Mr. Steele, Ms. Hilton, and myself.
I sent it on June the 6th at 4:30.
Right. And do you also see June 6th at 4:31 p.m.? And when you say 4:30, you do mean 4:31 p.m.?
Yes.
Do you also see June 6th, 2024 at 4:31 p.m. on the email States Exhibit 1?
Yes.
And in fact, the email States Exhibit 1 is at the bottom, meaning it came before
Yes.
the emails that were Defendant Williams Exhibit 2.
That is correct.
Okay. And so given that States Exhibit 1 looks as it does,
Mhm.
are you saying that the email that is Defendant Williams 1 is the entirety and not a part of any other email chain that you sent?
This email was the first email sent. Okay, so when I say this email, I'm referring to Mr. Williams' Exhibit number 1.
Okay.
Was the first email sent on June the 6th of 2024.
Okay.
That is the first email. Mr. Williams' Exhibit number 2 is the continuation of that chain of emails in which Ms. Hilton responded to me, and then I responded to everybody else, including yourself.
Thank you for clearing that.
Mhm.
Your Honor, I'm going to give back to the court's copies of these emails.
Okay.
Thank you. And I apologize, they're not.
That's
Ladies, we might have to raid this closet and help.
You were asked, Mr. Melnick, you were asked by Mr. Sharp, how did you become aware that the state was talking to Mr. Copeland?
Oh my
Okay,
God,
okay.
this feedback.
Let's try to figure out where that squelch is coming from.
Yeah.
Might be
Maybe-
from me. I may have been too close.
Okay,
to the
where's
microphone.
State's one, Miss Love?
Oh my gosh, that feedback
Your
is
Honor,
terrible.
If you've got,
Okay.
yeah, you did, it's submitted. Thank you.
Did we clear up the squelch? Is it gone? Okay.
It seems to be.
It's either the judge or the prosecutor.
I'll step away from it so that I'm not echoing. Mr. Melnick, do you remember Mr. Shard asking you, how did you become aware that the state was talking to Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
And did you understand that question to me in 2024?
leading up to June 7th of 2024, yes.
Did you answer how you became aware that the state was talking to Mr. Copeland?
I did,
How did you become aware?
because Mr. Shar told me.
Okay. And when Mr. Sharp called you, was that the first time that you were aware that the state had been talking to Mr. Copeland?
Since, I mean, I was aware of an interview that took place with, I think it was investigator Viverito. I don't remember the date of that interview, but it was during a time when I was representing Mr. Copeland. But other than that particular communication, that was the first time I became aware of any direct communication between the district attorney's office and Mr. Copeland.
And when you speak of the interview by investigator Viverito, was
Mhm.
that while she was with the DA's office or while she was with the Atlanta Police Department?
I do not know.
And was that interview one that you have seen or have knowledge as a part of the discovery in this case, or something different?
I have knowledge of it. I've never seen the interview. I know that it exists.
And was that interview a formal interview while he was in custody at the jail?
Yes, as I recall. I mean, I haven't seen the interview, but I believe he was in custody at the time.
And did you give permission for that interview? I'm gonna turn this off.
Just speak loudly.
Did you give permission for that interview, or did Mr. Copeland reach out to investigator Viverito to talk to her?
I have no idea. I did not give permission for that interview. I do not know if Copeland reached out to her or not.
And had you been paid by Mr. Copeland or retained by Mr. Copeland to represent him on criminal charges at that time?
Yes,
And was that prior to March of 2023 that this interview took place?
yes.
Do you recall at any time representing to any member of the district attorney's office in 2023 that Mr. Copeland had not paid you for your services?
No.
Do you recall telling a member of the district attorney's office that you were not representing Mr. Copeland on his criminal charges because he had not paid you? I'm just asking if you remember. If you don't, that's
I
fine.
don't.
Okay.
No, I represented him in his criminal charges to the end.
We understand.
Yeah.
And when Mr. Sharp called you, what was it? What did he say to you exactly?
He said that Mr. Copeland was being called as a witness the next day, June the 7th of 2024.
So at what point how did he tell you that the state had been talking to you?
During the course of that conversation,
What did he tell you exactly?
he just said that the state's been speaking to Mr. Copeland.
How many times had you spoken with Kenneth Copeland between the time that Mr. Sharp called you and the time that you resolved his criminal matter before?
How many times did I speak with him between June of 23 and June of 24? I mean, I can't give you an exact number, but Mr. Copeland has always been in communication with me.
Did you speak with him more than one time?
Yes,
And during your communication with him, did he always have access to your phone?
always.
Did he appear to always be aware that he could reach out to you at any time?
This is something where we're going to have to, I
Dang.
don't feel comfortable.
I can stop and pull that question all the way back.
All right.
And the court can decide if the next question is privileged. Did you assure Mr. Copeland?
I'm not going to talk about anything I said to Mr. Copeland, period. I'm not going to talk about anything that I said to Mr. Copeland.
Go Melnick. That's right. Confidentiality.
Based on how you have already testified, is it safe to say Mr. Copeland didn't reach out to you and say to you?
I'm not going to talk about any communication I had with Mr. Copeland.
Do you have any idea why it would be Mr. Sharp who first alerted you that the state was talking to Mr. Copeland?
No.
That's right,
And
Michael.
are you aware of any communications
Mr. Copeland made to state as it pertains to your representation of him after his criminal case was resolved?
I'm not.
Do you recall, you indicated that you spoke with Mr. Abadi, with the district attorney's office, regarding Mr. Copeland as a witness in the case that we are in trial on now?
Yes.
Do you recall telling Mr. Abadi that you were not representing Mr. Copeland beyond the criminal case?
No.
Was the time or times that you spoke with Mr. Abadi in the context of resolving or getting a bond for Mr. Copeland's criminal charge?
It was primarily with regard to the bond and the underlying criminal charges. I don't believe Mr. Abadi has much, if any, involvement in this case.
What is your recollection of what it was that you said to Mr. Abadi or anyone else regarding your representation of Kenneth Copeland beyond his criminal charges?
I don't really recall having, other than the fact that, you know, he's talked to me and I've talked to the state, I don't recall having in-depth conversations about it. Y'all were still in the middle of jury selection. It wasn't much of an issue.
Understanding you don't recall having in-depth conversations about it, what is it that you recall telling Mr. Abadi or any other member of the state about your representation of Kenneth Copeland beyond his criminal charges?
It's coming, Shane. I got it. It's coming.
I don't really have any independent recollection of anything specific.
How are you then able to say that you spoke with members of the state and told them that you represented Kenneth Copeland in his capacity as a witness in this trial?
Because I had specific conversations with Don Geary about this case and about Mr. Geary's desire to use Mr. Copeland as a witness.
Am I correct that that was pre-indictment?
Yes.
And am I correct that that was at a time when there was at least a prospect that Mr. Copeland would be a defendant and not only a witness?
That's correct.
So apart from the conversation you had with Don Geary pre-indictment, where there was a prospect that Mr. Copeland would be Monday indictment, do you have any recollection of conversations that you had with members of the district attorney's office regarding your representation of Kenneth Copeland as a witness in the current case 22 SC 18357?
Ms. Love, we did not have substantive discussions about what his testimony would be, but everybody in your office knew that I was representing Kenneth Copeland.
Boom!
I don't mean substantive. I am asking you simply, do you recall what it was, if anything, you said to either Mr. Abadi or any other member of the district attorney's office?
Can y'all type boom in the chat? She losing.
Of Kenneth Copeland as a witness only in the current case 22 SC 18357?
Just that I'm representing him.
And you recall specifically saying to some member of the DA's office, apart from the criminal charges that you helped resolve in 2023, you recall saying to a member of the district attorney's office, I'm representing Kenneth Copeland as a witness only in the YSL trial.
I said that to you, okay?
That is your memory.
Yes.
Where was this? Was it on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. And what was it? Was it before or after Mr. Copeland resolved his criminal charges?
I guess before, because it was when we were talking about the bond issue.
And so what exactly did you say about your representation?
I said that I was representing him, and if you want to talk to him, talk to me.
Again, boom!
When you said you were representing him, isn't it true that you were talking about this criminal charge?
No, Miss Love, it's not true.
Did
And
you state that you were representing him beyond his criminal charges?
Had you finished your answer?
that's fine, yes.
Make sure he finishes his answer before you put the next one on the floor, okay?
Did you state that you were representing Kenneth Copeland in his capacity as a witness in the 22 SC 18357 case?
Yes.
Outside of the criminal charges?
Yes.
And did I hear you say that it was your testimony that you never once indicated that Kenneth Copeland had not paid paid you and you weren't even representing him.
Irrelevant.
No.
So is it also your testimony that no one from the DA's office reached out to you to try and get you to go speak with Mr. Cole
About what?
about his criminal charges?
Nobody tried to reach me to go talk to Mr. Copeland about his criminal charges.
Is that your testimony?
I don't know why that would be necessary.
That wasn't the question. Answer the question.
No, I don't recall anybody speaking to me about going to talk to Mr. Copeland about his criminal charges.
And so is it fair to say you also don't remember telling any member of the DA's office that you were on vacation and you were not able to deal with Mr. Copeland's criminal charge?
So I resolved Mr. Copeland's criminal charges. As far as I know, I resolved them to Mr. Copeland's satisfaction. And it may well be that at some point I was on vacation and not available to go speak to Mr. Copeland. I don't recall specific dates and times, but there is no issue with communication between myself and Mr. Copeland. Okay.
So as it relates to the question that I asked, do you recall there being a time when you conveyed to the district attorney's office that you were on vacation and could not go to talk with Mr. Copeland?
Ms. Love, if you have such a communication, then I'm sure it exists. The fact that I may have been on vacation a day or a week doesn't mean that I wasn't communicating with my client.
He's
Okay.
cooking her.
And if you would mind answering whether or not you recall.
I don't recall.
All right, y'all, we've been at this for over an hour and it's really not particularly relevant anyway, so let's wrap things up.
Yes, Your Honor. When you spoke about Mr. Herzog and you said he was never involved in the case, do you know what it was that he was calling you about?
He was calling me about Mr. Copeland testifying in the YSL trial.
And you spoke with him
Yes,
and he said that?
yes.
And what did you tell him?
I told him that Mr. Copeland didn't want to testify.
Now, that was in March.
That was in June of 2023.
And did Mr. Herzog ever say he was working on that trial?
That was my understanding of the purpose of his call to me.
Did he say he was working on it?
Yes.
You indicated, and Your Honor, I have about 5 more questions.
All right.
You indicated that upon questioning by Mr. Steele, that your concern regarding the district attorney's office communication with Mr. Copeland was Mr. Copeland's criminal exposure and that the DA's office was seeking use immunity. And that you considered it ironic that a motion would be filed on June the 7th, considering there should have been, or wasn't, apparently there was no grant of immunity prior to that time. Do you recall saying?
I do.
You never once asked the district attorney's office what protections the immunity afforded to Mr. Copeland.
I'm familiar with what use immunity is, Ms. Love.
Do you recall telling Ms. Hilton in the presence of an investigator that you had never heard of OCGA 245507?
I believe that I did not know that that was the use immunity statute, but once I read the order and saw that it was the use immunity statute, I'm very familiar with use immunity. I've been doing this for 30 years.
And so you are aware then that there wasn't a need to seek use immunity, but that the motion was to compel Mr. Copeland to testify after the state had offered him immunity.
I feel that the motion and the order that was granted to Mr. Copeland did not protect him very much at all.
And finally, in writing to the email that is labeled Defendant Williams Exhibit Number 5, You wrote, "My concern is for my client. Had I been involved, I would have demanded a much more specific immunity deal.
Mhm.
You need him much more than he needs you. You've put him in a terrible position where you know his life is in danger, whether in custody or on the street. He's a marked man from this point forward. Go F yourself if you think I'm doing anything besides protecting my client."
Yes.
So what specifically did you intend to, you didn't include in here anything particular that you were to worry about with the immunity deal, but you were very specific about Mr. Copeland's potential danger from testifying. Is that wrong or right?
We all know that Mr. Copeland is in danger by virtue of his testifying here.
Exactly.
Are you asserting that he is in danger for any member of the state from testifying?
No.
And what specifically did you want, more specifically, in the, because you do understand it's not an immunity deal. We can't use anything he says in any way against him.
Yes.
So understanding that, and that the motion was simply to compel Mr. Copeland to testify, given that he had received that, what much more specific information did you want to see in the meeting?
I would have demanded that he be given immunity from all state level prosecutions as a result of any action he may have had involved with any other individual in this case. And I would have seen if we could have included the feds in that as well.
And did you not understand Mr. Copeland, or did you want more than what he was entitled? Did you not understand him to have been afforded immunity for anything he was asked about criminally, whether it was from the state or the defense?
All that protects him from is from you using his testimony against him.
So you did not understand that it actually protected us from using that testimony in any way to get information about him to prosecute him regarding those acts? You didn't understand
It protects him from his testimony at trial being used against him, Ms.
that?
Love.
And anything derived from that
And anything
testimony,
derived from
you're
that
aware of
testimony.
Speak one at a time. Anything derived from that?
Testimony. Are you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
So given that Mr. Copeland could not be prosecuted for anything he testified about criminally, and the state could not use his testimony to go seek additional information or reasons to prosecute him, what is it that you would have been seeking to get?
So we are getting dangerously close to privileged communications here. So, but I told you what I would have demanded. I would have demanded absolute immunity from any state level prosecution for any criminal action involved in this matter.
Even those that he didn't speak about at all in the state?
Yes.
And could you tell us just why it is that you would have felt that that was
I think that's,
something that should have been afforded?
I'm not going to get
even
into
if it
that.
did not?
I'm not going to get into that, Ms. Love. I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, I think that's all that I have to think.
All right. Is
Oh,
there any
land the plane, Jesus.
further questioning? Okay, Mr. Melnick, this time you can actually go. Thank you for your time. All right. All right, let's move on to the next issue. All right, we're done with this, right? Everybody satisfied?
She's
And
good.
I'll just proffer on the record, if without calling unless the court finds it necessary, that the lawyer who was.
Okay, on just a second. Yes, sir.
I do not accept any proffer by Ms. Love. I've told the court that before, but that remains.
All right,
I'm rejecting it. If she
Your
wants to
Honor, I'm not-
testify, then that's fine.
don't talk while somebody else is talking.
Oh, she checked
Let me
her.
finish. Let me rule, then you can go ahead. I will listen to what your proffer is, because it's really not for Mr. Steele to accept or not. It's for the court to accept or not. Go ahead.
That Mr. Abadi, who was earlier present in court, was on the call that I think Mr. Melnick referenced that he had regarding, he said he spoken to Mr. Abadi about Mr. Copeland and his representation of Mr. Copeland as a witness in Mr. Body would testify that Mr. Melnick specifically and explicitly said that he didn't want to have anything to do with his YSL case, that he was not representing him in his capacity as a witness in this case, and that when he was dealt with the criminal charges, that was it. I believe that he made some reference to used car salesman or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but if necessary, I will bring Mr. Body back at some point to testify.
All right, well, if I am presented with a motion that makes that testimony relevant, then we'll hear from him at that time. My point in all of this was just so that Mr. Melnick could feel like he'd cleared his name. All right. Okay, so anybody need a restroom break before we move to our next topic? All right, let's take 12 minutes and be back at 10:30.
And Your Honor, there's the omitted parts of the transcript. I just want to let you know before we move on to something else.
Omitted parts of the transcript. Yeah, that's what the next topic's going to be. Yes.
Sorry, guys, I was muted. Oh my gosh. So they are on a break right now. They are supposed to be back any minute. I was a few minutes behind, but wow. Oh, wow. Okay. That was Lil Woody's attorney that you just saw, John Melnick. He was representing Lil Woody before Kayla jumped in during this ex parte meeting. I think the quote of that was, "Go fuck yourself if you think I'm going to do anything other than protecting my client." This does not look good for Love at all, guys. It doesn't. Because here's the thing. This shows that they knew the entire time that he had representation and still talked to him. If Melnick was allowed to represent his client in the right way, he just said it on the stand, he would have recommended that Woody had the best terms of immunity across the board. He didn't have that. Right? They were actually going to talk to him without immunity, which is crazy. And here's the thing. Now that there's a new regime, we saw that Glanville was allowing this type of stuff in there. We saw it's the whole thing is just so unprofessional. And the way she tried to clean it up, I mean, the truth is out there now. You spoke to a client without his attorney, but Melnick had some really good points. You're putting this kid in danger. You're putting Woody in danger. Okay? And he's advocating for that. Woody knew, right? He's an adult. He has to make the decisions, but his attorney is really acting in his interest. And we even went back through those emails. Miss Love threw the first shot. She threw the first shot in the email chain because guess what? They needed Woody. If Woody did not testify, this case would fall apart. And they know that. When we talk about scrambling and scraping, right? Imagine if Woody was not a part of the evidence. Imagine if his testimony was not included. Would they be able to get away with all of this? Would they be able to charge these guys? Would half of the charges dissipate? Would it go away? So you understand why the state needs him. But that was probably, out of all of the months that we've watched this trial, that was probably one of my favorite parts aside from Woody's testimony. And this is in the best part, and I'm gonna come to you in a second, TLGC. The best part is when Woody's attorney said, "I don't recall." If you'd like some I don't recall t-shirts, I have trial merch links in the description box of this video. So check that out if you're interested. Woody is set to be back on the stand tomorrow, so we will keep going. But this was such an interesting bombshell start to the morning. Happy Monday to you. Seriously. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go through our super chats, and we should be caught up to date. I'll see if they have come back to court. We're usually, I like to run at least like 5 minutes behind. So if there's any dead moments, we can skip ahead and you guys don't have to sit through all of that. And that's actually why I started this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern instead of 8:45. I like for us to have that buffer time. If y'all could do me a huge favor, And shout out the Little Gaming channel. Look at that. He's actually today's stream sponsor. He dropped $100 super chat. He says, let's go, AV. Proud of you, sister. Thank you so much, Little Gaming channel. If any of my mods are hanging around, if you can include a link to the Little Gaming channel's channel, that would be fantastic. He is such a strong pillar and a huge part of my community, the lead attorneys community. He supports both of us super, super generously over there on the West Coast. So it is early where you are. It is super early where you are. It's almost 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So if y'all could type in TLGC, that would be amazing, amazing, amazing. And he is your stream sponsor. High Value Man kicked us off with $100 super chat, and the Little Gaming channel. I've seen a few more of these. I think you're at 130. So I want to properly give you your flowers, brother. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate all the support you've given me, all the support you've been giving to lead throughout these trials. I think you've been watching us since the Johnny Depp days two years ago, you know? So I don't recall is now the tagline of this trial because it is such an absolute nightmare. Thank you so much, Little Gaming channel. Really, really appreciate you. All right, guys, I'm going to bring it up to the top. We're going to read all of these. I'll come to some cash apps, and then we will jump right back to the trial and see where we are. Shout out to Tia, who became a new member. Welcome to the community, Tia. You're going to love it over here, sis. And ladies, maybe I'll run a poll. Ladies, love me some help with her wardrobe. Did y'all see those trousers? Listen, trousers are supposed to have a line, not an opening, a line on the back. Like it's a pocket. It's a pocket. But on business clothing, typically those pockets are sewn shut, but they are not supposed to be open like that, if you know what I mean. Shout out to D, who hits me with $1.99. He says, Monday morning, let's rumble, let's go, AV. Shout out to Michelle, who hits me with $2, says everybody hit that like. We have AV7 here. And I'm hearing that some of you guys are saying that it is back. Let us jump back in. I wanted to cover some of those. Let's see. Are they back? They are back. All right, guys, I'm going to bring us back so we can get back on in there. If you have supported the stream, thank you so much. Thank you for supporting your girl. I'm planning on sitting here all day with you. We will get it done. So let's see. Share screen. All right, let's go.
I just have a brief TikTok that I need to play.
A TikTok.
Really?
It's very brief.
Okay.
TikTok.
Well, this is part of the proffer, so it's your choice. I can do it or I cannot do it.
I
Your
have
Honor.
no idea what it's going to be.
I can tell you what it will be.
Why don't you tell me first?
This will be a TikTok of Mr. Copeland speaking to Miss Bumpus, where
Okay.
Mr. Copeland acknowledges that what is in the transcript the transcript is not complete from the June the 10th meeting.
Did Mr. Copeland read the transcript?
I don't know what Mr. Copeland has read or not.
So
If you don't want to hear it, then I can just do my proffer, Your Honor.
I mean, if that's what it says, it shows Ms. Bumpus talking to Mr. Copeland.
Believe it or not, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Copeland says, whatever. I mean, I don't care. Play it.
You can take it for what it's worth, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
I'll just.
Let me just, if I can begin with my proffer, then I can play this,
Okay.
Your Honor. It is my understanding, based on my conversations with Ms. Bumpus, that while the transcript may be, let me be more specific, the transcript of the June the 10th, 2024 ex parte meeting, and I'm not going to list everybody that was in the meeting, but that transcript was complete in the sense Bill was in the room
Mhm.
and the court reporter was in the room. I have no basis to believe that transcript is incomplete for when Judge Glanville was in the room. But there was a portion of that morning, a significant portion of that morning, based on my understanding, where it was Ms. Hilton was in the room, Mr. Copeland was in the room, Ms. Bumpus was in the room.
And how do you How is that your understanding? Because I don't see that from the transcript. And I know I actually said that at some point, but I went back and looked, and let me reference y'all to, let me find it. All right, so the beginning of the transcript, it is just other than, it is, if we all look at page 3, present in chambers were Judge Glanville, ADA Love, Attorney Bumpus, Court Reporter Weaver, and investigators Long and Hamilton. And then they have a conversation that goes through page 22. On page 23, the proceedings stood in recess from 9:34 to 10:03 because just before then, they had decided to get Mr. Copeland in and Miss Hilton in. So when they go back on the record at 10:03, this is reflected on page 23, it's Judge Glanville, ADA Hilton, Attorney Bumpus, Court Reporter Weaver, investigators Long, Hamilton, some deputies, and then at some point, Mr. Copeland expresses that he might want to call his sister, and on page 36, Mr. Copeland says, this is not the sister, can I speak with her for a second, meaning Miss Bumpus? And it shows that Judge Glanville, ADA Hilton, Court Reporter Weaver, and the 2 DA's office investigators leave chambers at 10:17, return at 10:33. Then Mr. Copeland has a question for the court. And then
Now we're talking about the transcript, y'all.
on page 46, a sheriff's office person comes in and tells Judge Glanville, we have a security issue. We need to stop for a minute. And it reflects that Judge Glanville and that officer, Lieutenant Dean, exit chambers at 10:45. Judge Glanville returned to chambers at 10:47. Okay, and then there's something about he might want to talk to his sister, and on page 52, they appear to maybe call his sister, and Miss Hilton says, if y'all want to talk, let me go somewhere where I can't hear you. The judge is over there, so just speak low so he doesn't hear you. And the court says, hold on. And Judge Glanville exits chambers along with Miss Hilton, Investigator Long, Investigator Hamilton, and the court reporter. They all leave from 10:53 to 11:28. When they come back in, and this was where I got confused, the court says, okay, all right, Mr. Copeland, have you had an opportunity to talk with Miss Bumpus, your lawyer, and Miss Hilton, the state's counsel? Have you got any other questions? And I hadn't looked up to see who left before, so I thought maybe just the judge had left, but it appears that they had all left. So, I mean, I assume he meant, obviously we know Miss Hilton and Mr. Copeland had been talking prior to this. So I guess that's what he meant. But anyway, that's where I had gotten that. So where do you get your basis that they were in there at some point?
I get my information from Miss Bumpus. So
Okay.
perhaps, and I don't know specifically at what point. I don't know if Miss Hilton came back in the room prior to going back on the record. I don't know. But at some point, Miss Hilton, Mr. Copeland, and Miss Bumpus were in that room discussing things amongst themselves.
Oh my God, guys. This case is such a dumpster fire. All right, what are we watching? Here we go. Doug Weinstein, brother to this channel and attorney for Yak Gotti is at the podium right now. We just got back from break and, you know, I was going to kill some time with some super chats, that sort of thing. So if I haven't gotten to your super chat, hang on, I'll get there. Okay. And shout out to Full Drinking and Half Thinking. If you got a membership from him, please say thank you. Super, super generous brother. And also a content creator. If any of my mods are hanging around, drop the link to his chat. Check him out when you have a second. Now, Weinstein is here saying this. He's like, as soon as we get back from break, he's like, hey, Judge, I have a TikTok that I want to show you. And she's like, you have a what? I have a TikTok that I want to show you. And she's like, what's on the TikTok? Here's what's on the TikTok. It's a discussion, and allegedly it's a discussion between Kayla Bumpus and Woody. And it is alleged that the transcript is not the entire transcript, that there were more conversations happening. A few weeks ago, lead attorney and I actually had Kayla Bumpus on his side, on his show, and she did indicate that it was not the complete transcript, the one that was released, the one that we all saw. You know, after, I think it was the day of recusal, she had come up and we were talking to her, and I specifically remember this. You know, we had mentioned the timelines in which Judge Glanville was saying things happened, and I wrote them down and also compared them to what was on the transcript. And there were some discrepancies with that timeline, okay? We're gonna see what the judge says here, but I just wanted to pause and explain what was happening after we got back from break this morning. If you're just now joining us, you might wanna rewind because we just covered everything with Woody's attorney, Melnick. Now we are moving on to the topic of the transcript, if it is complete. I'm sure there are other attorneys that are going to want to weigh in on this one, but let's see if she is going to allow this TikTok to be played and go from there.
And my understanding is that Mr. Copeland relayed information regarding the murder of Donovan Thomas and perhaps some other information that Ms. Bumpus indicated would be Brady material. And so I just want to put that on the record that this happened.
Okay, so you can't put that on the record
Well,
that it happened. You can put it on the record that Ms. Bumpus told you it happened.
Well, Ms.
Is that
Bumpus-
what you're saying?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I want to hear from Ms. Bumpus if that's the case.
Okay.
Ooh.
And then would you like to, are you interested in
If you
seeing this
want me
TikTok?
to, that's fine.
Okay,
No, I'm not interested in seeing
But
it,
if-
but if you feel like it's relevant, I'll watch it.
thank
Connor,
you.
may we approach briefly with Mr. Kendrick?
Yes.
Okay, they are approaching. They're going to talk about this, but it sounds like they want to see Kayla in court. They want to hear from Kayla herself. Like, what are we talking about here? Is this complete? What happened during that moment in time? It looks like the judge is walking away for a second. She'll just stepping away. She's talking to one of the deputies in the courthouse. Oh, you can tell she's getting frustrated with this trial. She is getting so frustrated with this. Look at her face. This is a dumpster fire at the very least. I titled it just being funny, but like legit, this trial has become that. Shout out to Thug in the courtroom with the sweater that says Jeffrey, new hairstyle, Brian Steele about to object. It looks like he wants to say something there. We can't hear anything. But this judge at this point is just like, okay, we're not going to do hearsay in the courtroom, Doug. Like, we're not going to do that. If Kayla told you something, I want to hear from Kayla. I want to hear what the discrepancy is, because there was a moment, and Lead and I have been highlighting this. There was a moment in time where Woody and Kayla had a discussion, and I remember Simone saying it. Simone was saying, if y'all need a minute, I will try to walk over to the other side of the room so I can't hear you. Now, Lead had talked about how big Judge Glanville's office was and how there was a giant like rectangle type of like a table, so to speak. And I believe that's where they were sitting. So there's more to the discussion that's missing, right? And we need to see what's going on. I thought Thug wasn't supposed to have headphones. Y'all see it? He's passing them. It looks like there might be some devices going around. And Thug is putting on some headphones. Brian Steele looks like he's putting on some headphones too. I wonder if that's Max in the background doing the same thing. It looks like they are listening to something. Yep, there we go. Max just got handed his headphones and his let's blow that up. That's interesting. And this might be something that needs to be played that we, the public, are not allowed to listen to. And it looks like they are they are putting a thumbs up, just saying that they can hear. I think that's Shannon behind Max, but I don't see Max putting them on. So that is interesting. But it looks like there is a sidebar, something's going on, and they don't want us, the public, to hear. Interesting. This has been the most entertaining day, aside from Woody not being on the stand. I'm so happy that you guys are here. And this might actually be the TikTok. I wonder if we can find it. Because if it is, it's likely that it's a popular TikTok. It is likely that it's a super, super popular TikTok. While they do that, guys, let me get a few more of these supers, and then I'm just going to wait for the feed to come back up. If the feed comes back up, then I will just allow us to keep listening. I think I left off at Michelle. Shout out to the International Quiet Storm with $5. He says, upgrade me to managing moderator. I'll lock him out. Thank you guys for getting my likes up. Shout out to the lead attorney, who actually is the reason why these likes are up. He came in and reminded y'all. He's just like, AV, lock him out. I don't do that here. I'm nice, but we're getting big. There might be a day where it happens. So thank you so much for getting my likes up, guys. And if you're just now tuning in after earlier, please hit the like button. What this does is sends it out to the algorithm and gets more people interested that want to watch the trial live with a community such as ours. So thank you so much, International Quiet Storm. The little gaming channel again with $20. He said, lead snitching on y'all like Woody. Get those likes up. That's right. That was when we first started today's stream. So thank you guys so much for doing that. Shout out to Michael Dixon with the $20. No comment, no question, pure love of the game. Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate you. I did get high value, man. Thank you so much, brother. It was good to see you. And thank you so much for passing through and participating in the chat. Shout out to one of my faves, Candy Yates, $19.99. She says, good morning, AV. This is good already. Let's go, y'all. Yep. And thank you so much, Candy. Appreciate you, sis. You're always holding both of us down. It's so great to see you on this side this morning. And again, guys, for those just tuning in, the court feed is currently quiet. It looks like there is something that is being listened to. You could see several of the defendants with an earpiece. You see Thug there with the thumbs up, indicating that they can hear. Same thing with Brian Steele. So it could be the TikTok that's in question. I don't know why they wouldn't want the public for us to listen to it ourselves. I mean, we could just go and find it. But a lot of us have known that Woody has mentioned for weeks that the transcript was not in its entirety. It was not completely everything that happened. So it looks like we are going to be having a discussion about that for a majority of the part today before the jury comes back tomorrow and Woody resumes being on the stand. So let's see if we could see the other defendants listening to anything. Yep, we see some headphones there. So Kendricks is listening to something. And again, this judge is not allowing them to listen to headphones for music or leisure, even if they're bored. What they're listening to is court provided headphones because there is something that they want the defendants and their attorneys to listen to that us, the public, we cannot. So thanks again, Candy, and quick little explanation of what's going down, guys. As soon as we get the audio back, I will let you know and we'll keep going. Shout out to Michelle, who gifted a AV to the 7th Power membership. Yep, it looks like the sidebar is still going on. So DA Love and Weinstein are talking to the judge at the front of the courtroom, and the mics are currently muted. If you received a membership from Michelle, please do me a favor and say thank you. If you got it from her, say thank you. She's such a sweetheart, always supporting, great team player, huge member of the community. Love to see her name in here. Shout out to D with the $4.99. He says, AV, have you watched Judge Joe Brown's recent interview where he talked about prosecutors' misconduct? I have not. And I heard that Judge Joe Brown has been killing it here on YouTube, but it's great to see his perspective as a judge. But man, I mean, Love shouldn't have gotten away with a lot of things that have happened, especially an attorney talking to a client that has representation. That's a huge no-no. And even though it was on the record, Judge Whitaker did say, she's like, I wanted Melnick to be able to clear his name, to be able to get this on the record. And I think that was really nice for her to be able to do that. Knowing Judge Glanville, he would have been like, no. So it's good that she gave him an opportunity to do that. Shout out to Jose Ortiz with the $20. No comment, no question. Pure love of the game. Thank you so much, Jose. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Very, very sweet of you. Super, super generous, by the way. Shout out to Gigi, who became a member. Gigi, you're going to love it here. You're going to love it, G. You're going to love it. I try to keep you guys up to date on this trial as much as possible. And speaking of the members, I was going to surprise y'all, but later I will drop a discount code for the I Don't Recall shirts and the, what's the other one? Which means. So if y'all are looking for Trial Watch merch, we have that store up. And of course, people are like, do you split those proceeds with Woody? Man, Woody goes, like his fees for now doing interviews they're so high. Vlad don't even want to play it. Like Vlad does not even want to pay how high Woody is charging for his interviews. So Woody getting his money. I'm sitting over here getting pennies, like Woody getting his money. So don't worry about that. But members, I will be dropping that a little bit later on today. So you'll get a nice little discount from our Trial Watch merch store. Shout out to JC with $2, says Melnick the G. Hashtag HBM. Yeah, Melnick was standing on business. He was not allowing Love to dance around some of these questions, and he wasn't going to deflect it. He's like, I'm not gonna divulge attorney-client privilege. You're not going to trip me up. I am not going to fall for that trap. And at the end of the day, what is really important to me was allowing the world to see that I wasn't going to allow Woody to do that. I wasn't going to allow him to get himself into trouble. And what I was doing was taking care of my client to the best of my ability. Right. It was also revealed that Love hit first. She did when she accused him, Melnick, of colluding with the other defense attorneys, Steele and Max Shard. That wasn't cool. And it was also extremely unprofessional. I mean, granted, he hit back where he told her to go F herself, right? He hit back when he used some of that peppery language, but that is super, super interesting. Shout out to TLGC again with the $10 who says, it's a shit show when lawyers and judges are called as witnesses. That's the other thing. Melnick was sitting on the stand, an attorney. That's a great observation, TLGC. You're seeing that. And this is something we've seen in the last few weeks, even with the Alec Baldwin trial. That case got thrown out. Why? Because the prosecution was on the stand. And we saw that the prosecution botched that trial because of what? Brady evidence. Brady evidence that was not turned in. Brady evidence that showed that the entire trial was a waste of time. All right, it looks like we have some movement at the sidebar there. Weinstein and Love are coming back. Judge looks like she is getting ready to sit down. Here we go.
We've got a resolution, and that is that we're going to take 2 minutes or so. Mr. Weinstein is going to go refresh his recollection by watching the TikTok himself. And then he represents that there are really only about 10 seconds that are relevant. It is one question by Ms. Bumpas and one gesture and short answer by Mr. Copeland. He's going to make himself a written record of what that actually says, and he's going to proffer that. So we'll take a quick break and allow him to do that. Then he can come back and put a more detailed, specific proffer on the record, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're in recess again.
Okay, so they're taking a short little break for for Weinstein to find the exact moment in the TikTok. I'm just going to minimize them and keep reading supers and things of the like. But we're waiting for Melnick, and I'll keep it off mute. So as soon as they come back, guys, we can jump right in. So there is this TikTok in question where Kayla and Woody are having a conversation, and there's 10 seconds of the conversation that are relevant to the transcript. Okay, so that's what Doug is trying to get in. Now I'm gonna poll you guys for a second because this has come up on a lot of channels. I like to keep things extremely professional over here. Like we do cut up in the chat. I love explaining the law to you guys, but there is a question that does come up, right? Because now this thing is in trial. Do you guys, and this is without having legal knowledge, do you guys think it was a good idea for both Kayla and Woody to talk about the trial on social media while this is going on. Put a 1 in the chat if you think it was a good idea. Put a 2 in the chat if you're like, AV, I don't know if it was a good idea. I've been thinking about this because, you know, I'll just be honest, like as an attorney, I would have not advised anybody to talk about it to the point where anything could happen. Anything could go wrong. We already know that for me, this is my opinion. For his safety, I don't think it was cool. I don't think it was a good idea, right? But I know that there was a lot of hype around the trial. You know, I've spoken to some of these folks. You know, at one point, the prosecution, and you guys, if you've been watching, I think it was three streams ago, I was really tight because the prosecutors did put a motion in trying to bar everyone from speaking about this trial. Now, there's one thing. If it is, you know, because I think with legal professionals, there's a line in which we're just not going to cross because we know that they can't talk about the case. You know, I had Doug here and it was a great conversation. I did not ask him about the trial like that. I wanted to know more about his client. I wanted to know more about his experience as an attorney, right? But, you know, it just started to get a little bumpy, so to speak, as far as like, you know, what you can and cannot say in court, right? And it became an issue with this particular case, a huge issue, huge, right? I saw a lot of twos. You guys are saying twos. I'm seeing hell no. I mean, and that's the thing, you know, it's good because I think for us, and I seen a few things. This is a good comment. They say a lot of creators were happy to hear from Woody. I believe Woody was on the lead attorney's channel. He was, you know, I missed him. I had a meeting at that moment, so I had to step out. But that's the thing. We had to literally, and, you know, I was there when Lead and I were talking about it and we were planning it. And there are certain questions that we needed to stay away from, you know, there are certain things that you can ask and certain things that you can't ask. But if you are on another platform and some people that are, you know, not legal people are just going to go in for the kill and ask the question, it's really not their fault because they don't know, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to have that discussion with you guys to see what y'all thought. But it is interesting. I mean, for the most part, it looks like twos have the majority. Twos have the majority here. Somebody said, I don't think they cared. I mean, it's just interesting. It really is. Like, I mean, some people are of the opinion that it really doesn't matter. And some people are of the opinion that it does. And look, we are back with a new judge. And one of those pieces of evidence is what we're looking at right now. That's what Doug Weinstein is looking at right now. And that's the thing. You think people weren't watching? The defense wasn't watching and they weren't going to pull it out. We talked a lot about the Fonnie Willis and Nathan Wade debacle a few months ago, also in Fulton County. When we talked about that thing, you know, Steve Sadow, one of the defense attorney for, I like to call him Boots because he wears these mean cowboy boots. They look amazing. Steve Sadow brought that up in that particular case. Like, hey, you know, judge, you know, the judge said it is probably wise for Fonnie Willis to not go out to the public and speak about this case. She did not care. She did it anyway, right? Here, Judge Whitaker ruled on that motion to bar anyone from speaking about it. What pissed me off was the defense attorneys, like, because it's like, come on, they're lawyers. They're not gonna cross any lines there, you know? But it's interesting, guys. It has been a huge topic of discussion. And that's what we're looking at right now. So we're waiting to see if this 10 seconds of this TikTok is going to come in. But we'll go ahead and resume. And again, I want to thank all of you guys for supporting the show and watching this together with us. It's been really, really fun. I think we left off here. Shout out to Full Drinking and Half Thinking. He gifted 10 AV memberships. Thank you so much, Full Drinking and Half Thinking. And again, I think I asked if any of the mods are hanging around to drop the link to their channel. Check them out if you are interested. And if you received a membership, please say thank you to Full Drinking and Half Thinking. Shout out to DC with the $4.99. What did she say? DC says they play Lil Woody's new song, I Don't Recall, from his new album titled DA Love. Woody played it on V103 yesterday. Is this real? Does he really have a song called I Don't Recall? Oh my God. That would be hilarious. Can we fact check this? Is this real? Let me come to the top of the chat. That would be funny. That would be hilarious if that is real. Thank you so much, DC. And while y'all are fact checking it, we'll keep going. Let's see what we have. Shout out to Michelle, who hits me with a 10. Thank you so much, Michelle. She says the steaks are overcooked, the wine soured, candles are out. It's time to close this case. It's done. Love y'all. Thank you so much, Michelle. And yeah, this just from what we saw this morning, there's just so much at issue, and it just really seems like a waste of taxpayer dollars. You know, as a former resident of Fulton County from the last year, being down there, like, this is where my money went. This is why I'm so invested. I'm just watching this like in awe. And this trial has been going on forever. So thank you so much, Michelle. Great point there. Shout out to Messy Michonne live, $9.99. She says, morning, little sis. This trial is still on. Shout out to the chat and ATL. Guys, if you don't know Messy Michonne, she is probably one of the funniest content creators I've ever seen. She is hilarious. She's been covering the mess that's going on in Dalton with the, there's some mayor out there that's just not doing her job correctly. And Michonne has been all over that. If any of the mods want to drop a link to her channel, that would be fantastic too. But tune into Michonne, guys. All right, let's see who else we got. We got Rod in here with $9.99. He says them talking on the line helps the defense. That's true. That's true. And I like the t-shirt there. It says ATL ho. Thank you so much, Rod. I love it. Shout out to the little gaming channel who's back with a 10. He says 2. I already said Bumpus is moving really weird for a lawyer. I mean, I don't know, no comment. I've had an opportunity to talk with her on the lead side. She's a great sister. She started a channel. I think she had some issues with the channel being monetized or stopped somehow, some way. I wondered if that had something to do with the trial. Sometimes on YouTube, people can mass flag or mass report a channel. I hope that didn't happen to her. But it's interesting. It really is. So, it's one of those topics where you don't want to blur lines, but I was just wanting to poll this audience to see what you guys thought. So thank you so much, little gaming channel. Let me go ahead and update the banner. So we've been on break. She said it was going to be a 2-minute break. We are a little bit past that. And thank you again, TLGC. You are our stream sponsor. Let's go to Justice for All with a $9.99. Who says, I feel like Kayla let her emotions get the best of her. Not that I blame her. No, that's actually a really thoughtful point, Justice for All, because Kayla was getting shafted too, like by Glanville, kind of accusing her of being the mole when it was someone else the whole time, almost putting her in contempt, having her travel back and forth when she doesn't even live in Atlanta, so she was getting shafted. And I think maybe that was a huge part of the rationale for her to speak about her experience with the case, right? And I think a lot of people would agree that what happened to her was not fair. And, it really was a reflection on how Glanville was ruling, right? It was a reflection of, some ill-will treatment towards the prosecutors. We saw Brian Steele, I think a week or two before that, almost be held in contempt. This case has been a dumpster fire to follow the entire time. The popcorn is always warmed up in here, right? So thank you so much for saying that, Justice for All, because I think that's a good point that needs to be included in this conversation. Shout out to D-Man with the 99-cent super sticker. Thank you so much, D-Man. Appreciate you. Thank you. And then shout out to Keon Walk with $4.99. Really appreciate you, Keon. No comment, no question, pure love of the game. All right, coming over to the Cash App side. I haven't caught a lot of these, but I want to do it right now. Who do we have? We have Ellen. Ellen hits me with the $2 Cash App. She says, I don't recall. Did y'all find out if that's actually Woody's song? Was that actually a song for Woody? Let me know, because I really want to hear it. If that's the case, maybe we can go and find it, guys, and listen to it together. If that is real, that would be fantastic. Shout out to Full Drinking and Half Thinking, who hits me with the 20 on the Cash App side and says, beverage on us. Thank you so much, Full Drinking and Half Thinking. Oh, you guys are saying that it is. Big Shot Ammo's in here saying it is. He has a song. Wow. He's working on his music career. Wow. Zola says, it's true. Go and search it, AV. They say Woody was on V103 debuting the song. Oh, man. Okay, someone's saying we're back live. Let me skip ahead. Are we?
Anyway, I
We
think
are.
this interaction, I'll go ahead and proffer to the court the exchange that I witnessed. Ms. Bumpus says, Woody, is the transcript complete? Mr. Copeland then vigorously shakes his head back and forth, indicating no. Then Kayla Bumpus says, you say no? And then Woody responds with, you know that. So that's the interaction that takes place. Your Honor, as I think maybe you indicated, and certainly as the state indicated, perhaps the better source of this is Ms. Bumpus herself. She's here. I'd like to call her to the stand.
Oh,
and we can hear her testimony about what took place on June the 10th, 2024, during the course of that ex parte that was not recorded in the transcript, not because of anything
Kayla's about to come
nefarious,
in.
but it would provide, I think, better insights into our position that there was Brady material June the 10th that was not captured in the transcript and not provided to us.
All right, let's hear it. Ms. Bumpus coming up, and Ms. Bumpus
Here we
has
go.
basically, I think, been in court all morning. Is that right? Okay, coming up and take the stand.
Here we go, guys. This keeps getting better.
Ms. Bumpus, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Okay, please be seated. Would you please state your name for the record?
Kayla Bumpus.
And what is your relationship with respect to Mr. Copeland?
I previously represented him on criminal cases, but for purposes of this case, I was a stand-in attorney
And what was your intent in representing Mr. Copeland?
to make sure that his rights were protected and to make sure that Jonathan Melnick was good to go.
All right, let's focus on the discrete issue that is before the court, okay?
Certainly. You were present in the June 10th, 2024 ex parte meeting, is that correct?
Yes,
Have you read the transcript to the ex parte meeting?
yes,
I'm not sure if that is already an exhibit in this case, Your Honor.
It is, it's a part of the record as a
Okay.
transcript.
Okay,
It's been filed
All right.
in Odyssey into the case.
Okay.
So I don't think it needs to be an exhibit unless you want to make it exhibit for the purposes of this hearing, but it's in the record.
okay. I'll just be referring to that transcript. So have you read the transcript from the June 10th ex parte meeting?
yes,
And does that reflect everything that occurred the morning of June the 10th during the course of your meeting? I believe that was in Chambers, is that correct? That was compound.
That
Was
was
that
a
meeting in,
compound
that was
question.
compound. Was
Let's
that meeting
redo
in
that one.
Chambers? Where did that meeting take place?
in Chambers.
In Chambers. And was the ex parte transcript that you read a complete recording of absolutely everything that took place in Chambers that morning?
No,
Could you please tell me generally, when was there a time during the course of that ex parte meeting when y'all went off of the transcript?
Clarify what you mean by that, when y'all went off.
Was
of
there a
the
break in the proceedings at some point on the morning of June the 10th?
multiple.
Multiple breaks.
Wow.
And during one of those breaks, did you have occasion to speak to Mr. Copeland with someone else, with someone from the states, the state present in the room?
Yes,
And when you had that conversation, that was off the record. That was without the transcript being transcribed.
yes,
Let's clarify who is in the room at
Yes.
this point in time.
Okay. Who is in the room? And again, let me just make clear on this. I only want you to speak about conversations that you had with Mr. Copeland that are not privileged, where, for example, someone from the state was in the room. Do you understand?
for sure.
Okay. When there was a portion of that meeting that was not recorded on transcript, Who was in the room?
Myself, Mr. Copeland, and Simone Hilton.
Who else, if
Um,
anyone?
I don't know all the deputies.
But were there deputies in the room as well?
Yes,
Do you remember how many?
4.
Okay. Anyone else other than the deputies and the 3 people you just named?
Investigator Hamilton and maybe another investigator from the state.
Okay. Approximately how long was that?
Hang on a second. Was the court reporter in the room?
I don't know. I don't recall. I can't remember.
And at what point during the meeting did this allegedly occur?
Towards the end,
If you had a copy of the transcript in front of you, could you show me where? Like, if
I
you,
could get close, Judge.
okay. Do you have a copy for her?
I don't have, does anyone have a copy? I do not have a copy
Mine just
printed out.
disappeared. I don't know where mine went.
Max, do you have one?
I mean, I don't mind passing up, but it does have notes.
Maybe not.
This is crazy,
Let's get a clean
guys.
copy.
Okay.
What had just occurred and then what occurred following it? What had just occurred prior to?
What had just occurred was we had been meeting for a really long time and I needed to go to the bathroom because I was stressed out. And
Okay.
when I went outside in the hallway, Simone was outside in the hallway. So I guess she didn't want to be in the room with Mr. Copeland while I stepped out. That's all I can think of. So she was outside. She met me in the hallway. And she said,
Okay, hang on before you get into what anybody said. So y'all are in chambers, like paint the picture for me. You're in chambers and then, and what happens for you to then leave chambers to go to the restroom?
I needed a break.
Okay, and so you leave chambers
Yes.
and Miss Hilton leaves chambers.
I don't know when she left because when I left, she was still in there. But when I came from the bathroom, she was in the hallway.
Okay, when you left chambers to go to the restroom, who was in chambers at the time that you left?
Mr. Copeland, the deputies that were with him, about 4, Miss Hilton, the investigators from the DA's office, the judge, and the court reporter.
Okay, so you took a bathroom break.
Yes.
And as far as you know, you left and then you have no idea when or if anybody else left. But when you came back, Miss Hilton was in the hallway.
Yes.
All right, well then that's not the part we're talking about.
No. Well, I think it leads up to the part we're talking about, and that interaction with Ms. Hilton may
Okay.
be relevant to where we're about to go.
All right.
Could you please describe the exchange you had with Ms. Hilton in the hallway?
So she asked me, I think I get what you're saying. I think I get what you guys are trying to say. And if he's trying to do what I think he's trying to do, then that's not going to work. And I said, well, I don't know what you're referring to, but I guess we can come back in and you could talk to him about it.
Okay, and so when you said you can come back in the room and talk with him about it, was there any further exchange in the hallway?
No,
What happened after that?
we go back in the chambers,
Excuse me, we being you and Ms. Hilton.
me and Miss Hilton.
You go back into the chambers, and then would you say again who was in the chambers when you went back in?
Well, Mr. Copeland had then went to the restroom, so it was just me and Miss Hilton in chambers, and then they bring him back in. And
Did
then-
you and excuse me, I don't mean to cut you off if you hadn't finished.
No, then the same other people.
Okay, when you and Ms. Hilton were in the chambers prior to Mr. Copeland returning, did you and Ms. Hilton have any further conversation in the chambers?
No,
Okay, when Mr. Copeland.
Hang on. So you and Miss Hilton go back into chambers. Do you go back? I mean, chambers is, there's an ante room where the judicial assistant sits. There's a staff attorney's office. There's the judge's office. Where are y'all? The judge's office?
yes,
Okay, and
Wow.
when you and Miss Hilton go back to the judge's office, there's nobody else there but the two of you?
and probably the investigators from the state.
You don't remember?
Well, the deputies had to take Mr. Copeland.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Mr. Copeland was gone.
Yeah, he was in.
Was the court reporter there?
Yeah, she was there.
Was the judge there? If you remember.
I don't remember if he was in there.
Okay, so you and Miss Hilton have a private conversation in chambers?
No, we don't talk.
Okay, y'all just walk back in and then what happens?
And then everybody comes back in.
Okay, who is everybody?
The judge, Mr. Copeland, the 4 deputies, the 2 investigators from the state.
Okay, we're just going to take it slowly, step by step, okay?
Okay.
All right. So those individuals return. Does Judge Glanville return to the chambers?
Yes,
Is the court reporter in the chambers?
yes.
Okay. When all of these people are in the chambers, what happens next? A step at a time.
Simone starts talking to Mr. Copeland about what we talked about in the hallway.
What specifically did Miss Hilton tell Mr. Copeland about what happened in the hallway?
I don't remember what she said at the beginning, because then she says, wait, Judge, can you step out?
Who is the she that says, wait, Judge, can you step out?
Simone Hilton.
Okay, ask the judge to step out. At that point, does the judge step out?
Yes.
Does anyone else step out?
I don't remember if the court reporter stepped out, but I know she stopped taking down what we were talking about.
Okay, and she may or may not have remained in the chambers.
Correct.
Okay,
And so at this point, you're saying that the judge is out, you, Miss Hilton, Mr. Copeland, 4 sheriff's deputies and 2 DA investigators are in chambers.
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
okay. Next step. What happens next?
Simone starts to talk to Mr. Copeland about, I guess this is the part about purging yourself and perjury and impeachment.
Okay, what specifically did Miss Hilton say about purging himself?
About purging himself once he began to testify that he would purge himself of him being arrested.
Okay, what about perjury did she tell to him? Did Miss Hilton say to Mr. Copeland?
I think some of this is on the transcript, but she reiterated the fact that pretty much she wanted him to testify. She didn't know what he was going to say, but there was one thing that they know that he didn't do that she would not allow him to testify to.
Okay. What did Miss Hilton tell Mr. Copeland was the one thing he knew, she
All right,
knew?
let's not assume any of this because this is your witness, so don't lead her, okay?
Okay. So when you say that, what did Miss Hilton specifically say regarding that?
Well, first, Mr. Copeland said, I can claim all of this. I can claim all of this. I might as well just say I did all of this. And she said, but we know you didn't do all of this. And specifically, we know you did not kill Donovan Thomas. And I will not allow you to get on the stand and say that you killed Donovan Thomas.
And when Miss Hilton said, I will not allow you to get on the stand and say you killed Donovan Thomas, did she say anything else with respect to that?
Pretty much, I was explaining to Mr. Copeland about independent evidence because she said if she had any independent evidence to prove that he was lying about anything, she would just use his statement to impeach him.
Guys, this is bad. This is, oh, you cannot make this up. You cannot make this up. That's not on the transcript. That part she just talked about is not on the transcript. So remember, they were talking about Brady evidence. What is Brady material? It's evidence that the prosecution has that their clients, that the defense's clients are innocent, and she has to turn it over. People heard, they heard through the wire, or however, they heard that Lil Woody admitted to killing Nutt. Or in what Kayla just said that he was just going to admit to all of it. And Simone is trying to protect herself and say, hey, wait, I can't allow you to do that because we know you are not the one that killed Nutt. How do you know that? So allegedly, they know who the real killer is, right? And it's likely one of the defendants that are there. I think they said that Shannon did it, or whoever pulled the trigger is in the courtroom right now. But if there is an issue with all of that, I think she was almost trying to protect Woody, like, we are about to lose our star witness. God, oh my God. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna take notes, but we need to go back to Kayla ASAP. Wow.
But she would not necessarily press charges against him for perjury. But she said that if he said this thing, this one particular thing, which was the unaliving of Donovan Thomas, that she may move forward with perjury. And Mr. Copeland says, well, it's not just about me knowing who killed him, but it's about, I know more about that infinity, and I know something about somebody who's not even on trial.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there a second because there's a lot to unpack, okay? So do I understand your testimony to be that Miss Hilton said that she would prosecute him if he lied about the killing of Donovan Thomas, but she would not prosecute him if he lied about other things?
Yes.
Wow.
Let's go back to the infinity, because I didn't catch all of that. What did Mr. Copeland say about the infinity?
You just say, I know something about the infinity that y'all don't know.
And how did Miss Hilton respond to that?
No, I don't remember, but basically she just like, okay.
Okay. What happened next in that meeting? Oh, can I stop you a second? Had Judge Glanville re-entered the chambers where you were at this point?
No.
Okay. Please continue. What happened after the comment from Mr. Copeland about the infinity?
I think that, I mean, she really didn't say anything about it. She just kept moving forward with explaining to him about she wasn't going to go for that lie about the unaliving of Donovan Thomas, but whatever else you lie about, I'll just use it as engagement. And that conversation went on for about 5 minutes or so, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. At this point, we've been in there for 2 hours. And they gave me a second to talk to Mr. Copeland, and then that was the end.
Okay. Who gave you a second to talk to Mr. Copeland?
I guess Simone.
Did Simone Hilton remain in the room while you spoke to Mr. Copeland?
Yes, but she couldn't hear what we were saying.
And why do you believe she couldn't hear what you were saying?
She couldn't hear. I know because we were whispering in we scooted away from her and we just kind of whispered in each other's ear.
Okay. Is there anything else that happened during the course of this meeting where Judge Glanville was not in the room that you haven't told us this morning?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know there's one time where Adrian says something about Judge close your
Where,
ears.
I'm sorry, who?
Adrian Love.
Okay, let's stop just a second, okay? Because I want to make sure we clarify this. I believe your testimony earlier was that Ms. Love was not in the room, at least during.
And I'm just stopping it for a second, guys. What she said there was wrong. I think she might have just made a mistake because of nerves, and you guys are picking up on that. It does seem like Kayla is a little nervous. I know because I've read the transcript several times. Let's make that correction. Doug's about to do it too. Shout out to Doug Weinstein, who is talking to Kayla on direct examination. It is likely that DA Love will be responding to her as well. Here's what she just said that was wrong. The statement, Judge, you may want to close your ears, came from Simone Hilton and not DA Love. So we know that Kayla just mentioned that on the stand. That is incorrect. And I think she's just nervous. It looks like Doug is attempting to clean that up right now, but I just wanted to point it out to y'all as we're watching.
This portion of that meeting, is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you referring to another portion of a meeting, of the meeting that happened that morning?
I don't remember if he stepped out or not. I just remember at one point she said, Judge, close your ears.
I don't remember if who said,
Okay, let's go back.
yeah, that's
Okay,
very
here,
unclear.
we're going to go back and try to clarify.
Let me.
Yeah,
All right. So at the beginning of the meeting, it is Judge Glanville, Miss Love, and you,
Yes, Judge.
the court reporter, and then whomever the deputies are. Mr. Copeland is not there. Ms. Hilton is not there. Is that correct?
No deputies.
Okay,
They don't come until Mr. Copeland.
okay. So then it is just the judge, Miss Hilton, and you, and the court reporter, correct?
And the investigators.
The DA investigators.
Yes,
Okay. And so is it that portion of the transcript that you're moving to now?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And what did Ms. Love say?
I just remember her saying something about judge, close your ears. And I can't remember if he steps out then for a second or not, but that would be the only time I remember him stepping out.
What did Ms. Love say after Ms. Love said, Judge, close your ears?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. So we discussed that one portion of the morning where the judge was not in the chambers. Was there another time that morning, other than that one time we've been discussing, was there another time that morning where the judge was not in the chambers, but there was a conversation among you, Mr. Copeland, and someone from the prosecutor's team?
No.
Okay, that's the only time.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any further questions.
All right. Does any other defense attorney have questions for Ms. Bumpus? And we have a copy of the transcript now if anybody needs it. A clean copy.
Oh my God, these pants are bothering me. Oh, here comes Brian.
Here.
Here comes Brian. Here comes YSL Steel. Let's go. You can see Brian thinking. He's ready.
Go ahead, Mr. Steele.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Counselor, was there a time in your presence that you heard someone give a direction for the sheriff deputies to shut off their body-worn cameras?
Absolutely.
Do you know who gave that direction?
Deputy Brown.
And do you know at what period of time or what point in time that occurred? Were you alone with your client? Was it throughout the whole time? Were you with Ms. Hilton? What was going on when you heard that?
That was the first thing he said when the deputies brought Mr. Copeland in.
So as far as you know, I'm not saying the sheriff deputies filed that order, but they were ordered to turn off all body-worn cameras as far as you were concerned.
Yes.
And this conversation that you just relayed to us with Ms. Hilton, you and Mr. Copeland, your client, was that a calm conversation? Was it heated? How would you describe?
It was, we had been in there for 2 hours. It was a high level of emotional tension, if that's a thing.
Okay, were people getting louder than we're speaking now?
Yes.
And who was that person or people?
Simone.
Okay. And when you were talking about Mr. Copeland not being permitted to take responsibility for the killing of Mr. Thomas, you know what I'm referring to?
Yes.
Did Mr. Copeland in any way take responsibility for that killing that day to Ms. Hilton?
Pretty much, he just said, you don't know what I did or didn't do.
Okay. And that was said to the prosecutor about the killing of Donovan Thomas?
Yes.
Do you know if you saw Ms. Hilton taking any notes or recording the meeting, or any of the people with her recording this meeting or taking notes?
I'm not aware.
It says, and the court just gave a transcript, I don't know where it is. You can look at it. No one's trying to trick you. It says on page 40, towards the bottom, it's the Honorable
Yes.
Judge.
It's fine.
If you need to look at it, if you don't need to look at it, that's fine. Just let the record reflect. It should be on page 40. If you need it, it's June 10th. It should be 2004 ex parte conference that you were part of. And Judge Glanville says something to the effect, I'm not looking at, this is not a quote. but it appears to be to Mr. Copeland. Do you remember when Mr. Love told you that as long as you don't tell a bold-faced whopper, something like that? Do you see that?
Yes.
Can you just, so the court, unless the court has it in front of her, what
I've
line
got it
that
in
is?
front
Do
of me.
you know what line that is? Or it begins on?
Oh,
12.
he's
Um,
about to do it. He's about to do it.
Well, 9, but 12 specifically, what you're referencing.
You can see the
I couldn't
setup.
hear the last part.
9 is when he starts talking, but 12 is when he gets into that part.
He being Judge Glanville.
Yes.
Okay. And what information do you have that Ms. Love spoke with Mr. Copeland about the bald face whopper?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again? Or
Yeah.
apparently Ms. Bumpus didn't understand it any better than I did.
Do you have any information to educate us when Ms. Love spoke with Mr. Copeland about you can't make a bald face, whatever it says, whopper?
I'm going to-
Hang on just a second. Yes, Ms. Love.
My objection is that the question itself assumes a fact that has not been established.
Sustained.
Read what it says if you don't mind. Since it's
Tell me
in
what
there.
page we're on again.
40.
Okay. Thank you.
The court, the state can still give you immunity. They can give immunity to whoever they want, okay? And they can make that choice. I don't even make that choice. So if they, like I said earlier, they want your testimony, they figure it's that the jury needs to hear what you have to say, good, bad, or indifferent. And what Ms. Hilton is telling you is just the truth as you know it. And let her worry about, I mean, even though you may have said different versions of whatever, that's for impeachment. That's not going to get you in trouble. What will get you in trouble is you just invoking your First Amendment privilege because you've been given immunity. Or as Ms. Love said this morning, remember, Ms. Love said, if you overtly lie about something, like if you tell a bold-faced whopper, then they indict you on that particular charge. I mean, that particular false statement.
That part you said about, you remember earlier this morning, Ms. Love telling you about the bold-faced whopper. That's what I'm focused on. Can you tell us, were you present when Ms. Love spoke with Mr.
Objection,
Copeland
Your
that
Honor.
morning?
What's your basis?
Again, assuming facts that have not been established. The question, I believe, was, were you present when Ms. Love spoke with Mr. Copeland?
Okay, so I think that's based on the fact that what was just read out was read out. So I don't know that Judge Glanville's statement establishes that, but that's why he's asking it. So I'm going to permit him to ask that, and she can, keeping in mind that that doesn't establish that it occurred. Ask it as a more conditional question, I guess.
Do you have any information how that came about, if it occurred at all?
So the meeting was really long and a lot happened. I can't remember if Ms. Love was ever in the room at the same time as Mr. Copeland. So I don't remember them being in the room together. And if they were, they did not have any communication.
All right. Do you remember in that transcript, I have to get you the page if you don't remember, Judge Glanville handing something to you for Mr. Copeland?
Absolutely.
Can you tell this court what that was?
Which time?
Every time. So go one at a time.
So the first time, I believe he handed me a copy of the immunity order.
Okay.
And the second time, he handed me 2 statutes, one on perjury, and I think the other either on impeachment or, yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay. Any questions, written out questions you remember being handed to you or Mr. Copeland? District Attorney's questions, was that given to Mr. Copeland?
No.
Okay, you remember that discussion?
No.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you,
All
Your
right.
Honor.
Any other defense
Uh-huh.
attorney have questions for Ms. Bumpus?
She said, uh-huh.
Okay.
Someone else coming up? Who we got? Maybe Max? Knew it. I called
Good
it.
morning, Ms. Bumpus.
Good morning.
Counselor, I want to take you back to that Monday, June 10th, 2024. When you arrived for court that day, you were arriving to represent Mr. Copeland, correct?
Yes,
As a witness.
yes.
Okay. And where did you go when you entered the courthouse?
I came right here.
To this 1C?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever request an ex parte meeting with the judge?
No,
To your knowledge, did Mr. Copeland ever request an ex parte meeting with the judge?
no.
Okay. How did this meeting come about?
I was down here and when I got here, the courtroom was closed. There was no one here. And so I contacted Mr. Chamberlain and he came down. He told me to call him when I got in the courthouse. So I called him when I got in the courthouse and I was right here. And he came down and got me, took me upstairs.
Okay. Were you ever told why you were going upstairs?
I was never told why I was going upstairs, but once I got upstairs, I thought I was upstairs because that was the only place I could talk to Mr. Copeland.
Okay. At what point did you realize that you were being made part of an ex parte meeting?
When Brian got up there and said it.
When what? I'm sorry, I just,
Brian,
Mr. Steele.
who's Brian?
the
Mr.
attorney
Steele.
Okay.
got up and that was the first time I really realized that anything had happened because I had been sitting there and I did not realize what was happening.
Where are you? I thought you had just been brought upstairs to Judge Glanville's chambers.
But it was
Mm.
never a time where they said, oh, we're about to meet. They literally just start talking. So
Mr. Steele's there?
no, the first time I realized what had happened was when Mr. Steele made his motion in court.
Okay, so you were in chambers with Judge Glanville and Miss Hilton. And Miss Love, correct?
What I'm saying is,
You answered the question that I am asking you.
Oh,
You were in chambers with Miss Hilton and the judge. I'm sorry. There are two different parts to this ex parte. You were in chambers with Miss Love and the judge and a court reporter, and y'all had conversations, correct?
yes,
And you were aware prior to that morning that this case was being tried, correct?
yes,
Okay, and you were aware that Miss Love was a member of the prosecution team, right?
yes,
And that Judge Glanville was the presiding judge at the time.
yes,
And that there were defense attorneys on the other side of the case, right?
yes.
Okay. And so when you went into the meeting, you could see that there were no defense attorneys present, right?
No, but what I'm saying
no,
is,
she caught her.
I didn't know
She
I was
caught her.
going into a meeting.
Ma'am, I understand. And the question I asked you, you could see at that point in time that there were no defense attorneys present in the chambers, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so at that point in time, you knew this is a meeting with the prosecution and the judge and no defense attorney, right?
what I'm saying is,
Ma'am,
Answer
answer
the
the question I'm
question.
asking you.
I
Mhm.
didn't realize it was a meeting.
Okay, so at the point when people started talking, let's call it a meeting at that point in time. Okay.
Okay,
And so you knew that the defense attorneys weren't there then, right?
yes.
Okay. And so you knew it was an ex parte, if you knew the term ex parte.
Yes. I know.
Okay,
Mhm.
go ahead.
And in the meeting, who initiated the conversation about the purpose of the meeting? Was it you?
No,
Okay, who was it?
All right, let me ask y'all a question.
Hmm.
I can read what's in the transcript. So unless there's, something that we're saying occurred before, the court reporter said, okay, I'm ready whenever y'all are. I don't need an exposition of who said what. I can see it, okay?
Okay. I have no further questions.
All right,
All right.
Ms. Matthews.
All the defense attorneys are coming up first, and then Love can ask her questions after.
Ms. Bumpas, good morning.
good morning.
Just a few questions for you. At any time during the meeting that took place between the court, the prosecutor, yourself, Mr. Copeland, were you ever told
by the court not to disclose any of the contents of the meeting.
All right, we are not going to replow the issue of Mr. Steele being held in contempt. That is moot. So to the extent that this is going to that, move on.
Okay, that's where I was going.
All right.
Thank you. No question.
Anybody else? From the defense team side? Okay. Ms. Love, do you have a question?
Here we go, guys. Here we go.
Thank you. Ms. Bumpus, you were asked by, I believe, Mr. Steele, whether Judge Glanville ever handed Mr. Copeland anything. Do you remember being asked that question?
No,
Do you recall telling Mr. Steele or Mr. Shard or either member of the defense team this morning that in the June 10th hearing, Judge Glanville handed you a statute on perjury?
can you say that again?
Do you recall testifying earlier that during the June 10th hearing, Judge Glanville handed you a copy of the perjury statute?
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the question was, did he hand it to me to give to Mr. Copeland?
Do you recall testifying that Judge Glanville handed you a copy of the perjury statute? Or better yet, let me do this. Did Judge Glanville give to you a copy of the perjury statute?
And said, hand this to Mr. Copeland? Yes.
And did Judge Glanville give to you a copy of the immunity statute?
And say, hand this to Mr. Copeland? Yes.
All right. And when you responded, let me back up. So do you not recall being asked in this courtroom today, did Judge Glanville ever give to Mr. Copeland anything?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall what you were asked do you recall testifying that Judge Glanville gave you both a perjury statute, copy of that, and a copy of the immunity statute?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall what question you were answering when you made those statements?
The question that I was answering was, did Judge Glanville give me something to hand me a statute or hand me anything in a meeting?
And you don't recall him asking whether Judge Glanville handed Mr. Copeland anything?
Objection as to the answer.
Yes. Thank you.
I mean, I'm not sure we've got a clear answer on it, but does it matter?
If she, there's a reason that I'm asking the
All
question.
right, well, go ahead. You can ask it again because I don't think anybody's clear on it yet.
Do you recall being asked today whether Judge Glanville ever handed Mr. Copeland anything?
That doesn't matter.
I believe that I just stated that he handed me two things.
Ms. Bumpus, I don't think she's asking you about what happened. I think she's for some reason asking you about the question that
For
was
some
asked
reason.
to you on direct.
Do you recall being asked if Judge Glanville gave Mr. Copeland anything?
I don't recall.
Okay. At the time that you were called to the meeting, you already knew that Mr. Copeland had been granted immunity, correct?
Incorrect.
Okay. At the time that you assumed representation of Mr. Copeland, you were aware that he had been arrested though, right? You knew that Mr. Copeland had been arrested.
No.
Okay. At the time that Mr. Melnick spoke with you about standing in his stead on that Monday morning, did you learn during that conversation with Mr. Melnick that Mr. Copeland had been arrested?
No.
At what point did you learn that Mr. Copeland had been arrested?
After he had been arrested?
Was that before or after the Monday morning meeting?
Objection, Your Honor. You asked us to just focus on the content of that meeting. You asked me to not get far from that, and we're far from that.
Your Honor? Yeah.
Yeah, what does this have to do with whether or not some off the record discussion that Ms. Hilton was privy to occurred?
Your Honor, the reason I was asking about the giving to Ms. Bumpus the statutes
Mhm.
is that my understanding is that at the time that she was called to represent Mr. Copeland, she was not familiar with certain statutes.
Okay, well, maybe, maybe not, but that's not relevant to what we're trying to figure out here.
And so to the extent that she was asked by the defense whether Judge Glanville gave to Mr. Copeland anything, and she then responded, he gave it to me.
All right, I don't recall, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was establishing the reason he would have given her that, and I was establishing further the extent of the questions that I had for her dealt with her understanding of her responsibilities. And then finally, I was going to ask her, she'd already testified to my memory that she doesn't recall this counselor ever being in the room with Mr. Copeland, and if there was no communication.
Okay,
So I was going to.
that part seems relevant. You can ask about that.
Miss Bumpus.
Come on, love.
Do you have any memory of Miss Hilton and me being in the room while you were in the room with Mr. Copeland?
I have some memory of all of us being in the room for a very brief moment of time.
When you say all of us, who is all of us?
You just asked me, do I have any memory of you, Miss Hilton, and Mr. Copeland being in the room? I remember at one point you came back, but I can't remember exactly what happened while you were there.
Is it your recollection that I was there when Mr. Copeland first came into the room?
No.
And when you say you remember that I came back, where is it that you're remembering that I came back to?
Either, I don't remember. Maybe it's when Miss Hilton came back. But at one point, all three of us were in the room.
Who's all three of us?
Me, Miss Hilton, and Miss Love.
In chambers.
In chambers.
Was Mr. Copeland in the room?
I don't remember. I just said I don't remember.
Well, I mean, it's kind of important. We're relying on your memory for certain things, so. Were there deputies in the room then?
What I'm saying is if Mr. Copeland was ever in the room with Adrian Love, then it wasn't a long extended amount of time. And I don't think there was any communication. I remember that Simone left and it was just me, Adrian Love, and the judge and the court reporter.
All right, so your recollection is that at the beginning of the meeting, before Mr. Copeland ever arrived for the first, when he ever arrived with the deputies, that there was a point in time when the judge, Miss Love, Miss Hilton, and you were in chambers?
There was a point in time where Miss Love and Miss Hilton were in chambers with me. I cannot affirmatively state whether Mr. Copeland was there or not, but there was at least 2 minutes of us all being there together.
Did y'all have any conversation at that time?
I can't recall because Miss Hilton.
All right, guys, I'm just going to pause it because some of you are asking what's going on. So we came back from break at about 10:30. We're about an hour in and it's almost time for the lunch break. Kayla has been called on the stand by what was evidence that was introduced. It was a 10-second, it was a TikTok, and then we reduced it down to 10 seconds of Lil Woody and Kayla on the internet saying that the transcript was not completed in full. Now, the judge said, instead of relying on this 10 seconds, because Doug Weinstein brought it up, the judge was like, I want to hear from Kayla myself. So Doug Weinstein called her in on the witness stand. She just so happened to be in court. So, and remember, Kayla lives in Houston. She does not reside in Atlanta. So she had to make plans to be there, to be at the courthouse. Okay. Now, all the defense attorneys have asked her questions. You can tell that Judge Whitaker is extremely frustrated, rightfully so, because what value are you adding to the proof that the transcript is not completed in full? That's what we're trying to figure out right now. And at the same time, ADA Love is questioning her because all the defense attorneys went. Now it's the state's turn to examine her and see and rebut the fact that this 10-second clip states that the transcript is not completed in full. That's what we're trying to figure out right now. Okay. And it's almost lunchtime. So you could see Judge Whitaker is getting frustrated because the line of questioning doesn't make sense, but also the answers are not making sense. Because when you are asking people questions when they're on the witness stand, you have to do it with intention. I think Brian did it very well. Brian went up there with several questions. He got what he needed. He sat down. When your witness is not, giving you what you need for your arguments, it makes it difficult to make those arguments, right? So let's go back in, but I just wanted to explain for the people that are walking in.
Was doing all of the talking. I honestly believe it was when Ms. Hilton left at the beginning, when we first got in chambers, when we were in not the judge's office, but all of us were there.
Antechambers, like outside of
Yes.
chambers, but inside of the door.
Yes.
Who is all of us?
Simone Hilton, Adrian Love, me, Investigator Hamilton. Mr. Chamberlain was in and out. The judge was in and out talking to us, and that was it.
In and out talking to you about anything substantive?
No, Judge.
Okay. All right, so y'all are all out where the JA, the judicial assistant, sits.
Yes,
At
Judge.
first, okay, we'll call that the antechambers, ANTE chambers. So when is it that any of you go back into Judge Glanville's actual chambers, his office?
Adrian Love says, Judge, can we talk to you for a second in chambers?
Okay, and who goes then?
Just me, her, Adrian Love, and Judge Glanville and the court reporter.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Love, if you had anything else.
I thank you. Ms. Bumpas, there were investigators present or no? When you, me, judge, the court reporter first went back?
I can't remember.
Do you recall a comment from either the court reporter or the judge just joking about the fact that I'm not allowed to go anywhere without the investigator?
No.
And when you say that we went into the chambers, you, me, the court reporter, Judge Glanville, was Judge Glanville's deputy there?
Yes. I guess if he's a deputy, I don't know.
Which person was there for Judge Glanville? Which sheriff's office personnel, do you remember?
No.
And where was that person situated when you, me, Judge Glanville, the court reporter went into chambers?
I have no idea.
That person was in chambers with the four of us, five of us?
I don't remember. At some points, I don't remember about when he was walking in and out.
Okay. And by he, you mean a sheriff's office personnel?
If he's a sheriff, I don't know what he is.
Do you remember, do you have any memory of the investigator being present with me while I was in there?
I don't remember. I know there were investigators there. I don't remember if they came in chambers when you came in or after Ms. Hilton came in.
And seeing the transcript, does it do anything to refresh your memory about who all was there?
No.
Okay. And when you testified earlier that at some point after I left the first time, that Simone, me, and you ended up in a room together in chambers. Do you recall testifying that way to the court just earlier today?
Yes, at one point, me, you, and Simone were in chambers together. Like I said, it was a brief moment, and I don't remember you saying anything.
But are you saying that now that was after I left the first time?
I really don't remember.
Okay. So your memory, you know that at some point you, me, and Simone are in chambers together. You cannot recall whether after I left the first time I ever came back.
I cannot recall.
Okay. And when you said, let me ask you just this pointed question. Did Kenneth Copeland ever say, I killed Nut, while to Simone Hilton while you were in
It's a
there?
big question.
Can you ask the question again?
Did Kenneth Copeland ever say to Simone Hilton, I killed Nut?
No.
Did Kenneth Copeland ever say to Simone
Mm.
Hilton, I killed Donovan Thomas?
No.
Did Kenneth
Mm.
Copeland ever say that he killed anybody to Simone Hilton?
No.
Did he say
Mm.
any of those three things in Simone Hilton's presence and hearing, to your knowledge?
Can I answer that with a non-yes or no question, Judge?
With a what?
With an explanation, because he didn't say yes, or he did not say I killed, but he said, you cannot tell me what I did or did not do.
Okay. That's the extent that he said.
Yes.
Okay.
That was actually good by Miss Love. I'm gonna get her credit for those 3 questions.
When you spoke about someone asking the sheriff to turn off their body cameras, was that Miss Hilton? Did you say Miss Hilton told the sheriff to turn off their body cameras? Did I hear that wrong?
You heard that absolutely wrong.
Please tell me who it was.
I clearly said Deputy Brown.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for clearing that.
You're welcome.
Do you recall what was being talked about when Deputy Brown told the sheriff's deputies to turn off body cameras?
Nothing. That was the first thing that he said when he walked in the room.
And at that point was Ms. Hilton, you, Mr. Copeland, judge, court reporter, and DA's office investigators all present in the room?
I don't remember who was in the room. It may have just been me.
So it may have just been you when Deputy Brown said to the sheriff's deputies, turn off your cameras?
I don't remember exactly who was sitting in the courtroom.
But that's
I mean,
in the chambers, but that's possible?
It's possible.
It's possible it might have been when you and Mr. Copeland were just in there together?
It wasn't.
Well, Mr. Copeland had to have been in there, right? Because you said the deputies didn't show up until Mr. Copeland arrived.
No, what I'm saying, Judge, is that was the order as he walked in.
Right, but what did you say might have just happened when it was just you?
Nothing. I was saying, I may have been the only one sitting there. I can't remember, but there wasn't like, oh, step out. It's as soon as they walked in, this is what was said as Mr. Copeland was walking in.
And was there any, did you request at that point that they brought him in to have a private meeting with your client at the time?
At that moment, I hadn't requested anything.
Is it safe to say you don't know that they were told to turn off the body camera?
That is correct.
Okay. Did you ever hear anyone from the state ask the deputies to have those body-worn cameras turned off?
No.
You testified earlier that Mr. Copeland said something akin to, I can claim all of this. Did I hear you right?
Yes.
Okay. And who was he talking to? And
Simone.
okay. And did you know, or did he ever make clear what all of this was that he was talking about?
I believe he was referring to everything that
Wait, that's not the question. It wasn't what do you think he meant? It was, did he ever make clear?
he said everything in this case.
He said the words, everything in this case?
I don't know if those were his words verbatim, but that's what he said.
Was the court reporter there when that happened?
I don't know. This was an off the record conversation.
Okay, so it was off the, so when what about his words? What words did he say that makes you now say that's what he said if you don't remember exactly how he put it.
I said, I don't remember his words verbatim,
Right.
but I was there and he said, I can claim all of this. I can take all of this. I mean, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about this case.
Okay. Is what you just testified to the extent of the words that Mr. Copeland spoke regarding claiming something?
She's thinking.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. Is what you just testified about the extent of the words Mr. Copeland spoke about claiming something?
I don't want to say that is a complete lead to the extent, because he said it over and over. He said it various ways. He changed the way he said it.
Do you recall what specifically was being discussed at each of the points that he said that? Specifically.
Overruled.
Specifically, not generally, not broadly, specifically what was being discussed at each of the points where he said, I can claim all of this.
The whole conversation was about Donovan Thomas's unaliving.
Are you aware, are you familiar with any of the shootings that occurred after Donovan Thomas was killed?
No.
Okay. Are you aware or are you familiar with any allegations about any retaliatory events that occurred that the state considers a part of the Donovan Thomas shooting?
No.
At what point, what was being asked of Mr. Copeland when he made a statement that you testified? It's not just about knowing that, it's about who was in the infinity. What was being asked of him when he said something like that?
Nothing was being asked of him.
Okay. Did he just sort of blurt it out on his own?
Yes.
Okay.
And what he said was, I know something about that infinity that y'all don't know. And it got something to do with somebody who's not even on the case.
Okay. Did he ever make clear what it was that he knew?
He
To Ms. Hilton in your presence?
wasn't given the opportunity to.
But what do you mean?
She continued to talk about what she was talking about.
Okay. Did she ever tell him, don't talk to me about that?
No.
Did you ever hear him sort of interrupt her at any other time, at any time?
The whole conversation was them interrupting each other.
Okay. So did he ever interrupt her to give her more information or to tell her what it was about the affinity that he knew?
No.
Okay. When you said, Adrian said, Judge, close your ears. Did you mean to say Adrian said, Judge, close your ears?
You?
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Okay.
But she didn't
At
say it.
what point are you alleging, are you saying, does your memory tell you that I told the judge to close his ears?
I don't really remember exactly what was saying. I don't know if it was you and Simone in there, but something about, we were having a conversation, me, you, and Ms. Hilton were having a conversation about, I don't remember what we were talking about. And you said it, and then you said, Judge, close your ears.
She didn't
And
say
what did I
it.
say after I said, Judge, close your ears?
I don't remember.
All right, so then it's now your recollection that there was a point in time when you, Miss Love, Miss Hilton, and the judge were in there and Miss Love was talking.
Judge, I've said that she never talked while Mr. Copeland was in the room.
Okay, and you don't even remember really whether she was in there or not when Mr. Copeland was in the room?
If she was,
She, Miss Love.
it was very brief, but no.
Okay, but you said before, I thought, that there was maybe a 2-minute time when you, Ms. Hilton, and Ms. Love were in a room together.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay, so that was in front of also Judge Glanville? Because you just said it was, so I'm
Well-
trying to get clarity.
Here's the clarity. He wasn't at the table with us as normal. He was turned around on his computer, but still inside of his office.
Okay. So when did this occur during, so we have the beginning of the ex parte being Miss Love, all of y'all are standing outside in the ante room and Miss Love says, Judge, can we talk to you for a minute or something to that effect? And then who all gets up and goes into Judge Glanville's chambers?
Simone has left to go to do something at that point. So it's just me and Adrian Love
Okay, and who else?
and the court reporter. And she says maybe her investigator. I can't remember.
Okay, and so the three of you talk for some amount of time,
Yes.
the three of you being Miss Bumpas, you, Miss Love, and Judge Glanville?
Yes.
All right, and then tell me when that changes and it becomes more or fewer of you in that.
The first person to join us is Simone when she comes back from court.
Okay, and is that at the same time that or essentially the same time that Mr. Copeland also joins you?
Maybe within a minute or so. They don't come
Okay.
in like at the exact.
Okay, so they come in essentially together. And where's Miss Love at that point?
She leaves when Miss Hilton comes, but she does stay for, like I said, there's a brief conversation with me, Miss Hilton, and the judge.
And the judge?
Well, in the judge's chambers, the judge is
Okay.
not.
With you, Miss Hilton, Miss Love, but it's not a part of the proceedings yet because the judge didn't even pay attention. He's over there working on his computer.
Yes.
What do y'all say at that point in time?
I don't remember what the conversation was.
Anything of substance?
It was about maybe plea deals. I remember she said to me,
She who?
Adrian Love. I remember
Okay.
she says, which I can't forget this, is I don't know who's worse, you or Jacoby.
What?
That was the thing. That was the nature of the conversation.
Say that again.
She said, she tells me she doesn't know who's worse, me or Jacoby.
Me or Jacoby?
Yeah.
Jacoby Hudson?
Yes.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know.
It has nothing to do with this case.
No, that's what we're talking about. You asked me what we were talking about.
Okay, so something that had nothing to do with this case.
And then something comes up about, I don't know if it's plea deals. I don't know. It was something about this case where she says, Judge, close your ears.
Okay.
She didn't say it.
So this is before y'all kind of gone back on the record. The judge isn't paying attention anyway. He's in the room, but he's over at his computer. Y'all are over at his conference table. Is that what your recollection is?
Yes.
Y'all are talking about entirely other things. And then Miss
Whitney,
I wouldn't say entirely.
Whitney,
other things, but
help.
We're not talking about the Mr. Copeland.
or the case. If you're talking about Jacoby Hudson, you're not talking about the
No,
case.
we're talking about the case. She's talking about, I guess she's talking about the reference to me hugging people. I don't know. But we were talking about the case.
Okay, anyway, and then at some point, Miss Love, to your recollection, says, Judge, close your ears because she wants to talk to you about a plea deal.
I don't know exactly I don't remember exactly what she was talking about, but it was something pertaining to the case. And
Okay, but
she
you
doesn't
don't,
want to talk to me about a plea deal because I'm not a defendant.
right, that wouldn't have made any sense.
But she was discussing something pertaining to the case. And she says, oops, Judge, close your ears.
And how long does that conversation go on?
Like that's the 2 minutes I'm talking about.
Okay, and then what happens to Miss Love?
She leaves
She leaves. And then when do y'all go back on the record?
immediately.
Okay,
Well, no, I talked to Mr. Copeland for a second.
okay, privately or,
Privately.
okay. And then y'all go back on the record. And then does the record reflect everything the record reflects accurately? Other than whenever this conversation between you, Ms. Hilton, and Mr. Copeland allegedly occurred?
Yes,
Okay. Do you have a copy of the transcript in front of you at this point?
yes, sure.
Can you kind of point out where this conversation allegedly occurs?
It's somewhere around page 40.
Okay.
Between 39 and 40.
Lead. Why did you need to be here? Lead. Oh my God. You missed so much.
If it's between 39
Can't
and
wait till
40,
tomorrow.
are there any specific lines?
Well, it was like off the record, so I wouldn't know exactly which line it starts back at.
Okay, but you had represented previously that Judge Glanville was not in the room at that point in time.
Yes, he was asked to leave.
Okay. So him being asked to leave isn't reflected. Is that right?
Let me see.
Okay. Do you remember who asked him to leave?
Miss Hilton.
Okay. And that's not on the record either?
Thank you, Monica. I'll make note of that.
No.
And you can't remember whether the court reporter stayed or left?
I can't remember whether she stayed or left, but she definitely stopped taking down.
Okay. All right. And when did you, sorry, Miss Love, go ahead. You know what? Go ahead. I'll save my questions.
Your Honor, I honestly defer to the court. Please continue. I have no.
All right. So after this conversation concludes, then what happens? And by this conversation, I mean the conversation you referenced that is not reflected in the record, but that takes place between you, Mr. Copeland, and Ms. Hilton. What happens after that? So if it's not in the record, it's not going to be in the record. So you just tell me from your recollection, what happens after that?
That's probably towards the last 5 minutes of this meeting.
Okay.
And so we go back on the record and
So the conversation finishes. How does everybody get back in the room? And how is it that y'all go back on the record? Give me the details of that.
she just, we just finished the off the record conversation and just Simone just says everybody can come back in. And then okay, wait, Judge, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
It's actually,
Your Honor, does the court mind if I sit?
Go ahead.
I would say that the conversation actually happened around page 46, 45.
45, okay. And is that conversation in fact reflected on the record?
No, but I don't know.
I mean, so how are you sorting out, oh, it's around 45 that it occurs?
Because I try to get the conversation on the record.
What did you say? To get the conversation or to try to get the conversation on the record?
I say,
I'd like to hear it from your recollection without reference to the transcript
okay.
first, okay?
I'm trying to make sure. So I just,
So Ms. Hilton says, Judge, can you leave? And at that point, you say anything? Like, no, Judge, stay, or anything like that?
no, she already told me in the hallway that she was going to ask the judge to leave and have a
Okay.
conversation with him.
Okay. So show me where in the transcript y'all come back from the restroom break.
Well, you want me to, you asked me to.
Now I do want you to look at the
Okay.
transcript, yes.
And Okay, I'm sorry. You asked when, okay, I think we came back
No,
around.
Yeah, the restroom break. Show me the restroom break.
See, if that's not in here where me getting up, I don't know how to find that.
Okay, so the restroom break y'all take, but it isn't reflected.
Yes.
Okay. Is the restroom break after Mr. Copeland's with y'all?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And it's immediately after this restroom break that you and Miss Hilton and Mr. Copeland have the private conversation?
Yes, sure. And Judge, you asked me a question earlier that I didn't get to answer.
Okay, what's that?
You asked me, can I, without looking at the transcript, tell you how I tried to get it back on the record?
Yes. Can you give me a second before you answer? Because I'm looking for something in particular. All right, so y'all take a restroom break. You see Miss Hilton in the hall, y'all walk back in. Mr. Copeland's gone because he's taking a restroom break at that point. The court reporter is there. Mr. Copeland comes back, the judge comes back. And that's when Miss Hilton says, oh, wait, Judge, go back out?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now what were you gonna answer?
You asked me how did I get it back on the record?
Yeah.
So after the conversation, I say pretty much, I want to get what she just told him about what he cannot go to jail for.
Okay.
Because the whole point of the off the record conversation is he's trying to figure out, can he go to jail for lying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to get back on the record that she says that she's not going to prosecute him for anything other than one thing.
Okay. Okay, and so y'all have had, the three of you have had this conversation. Judge is gone. You can't remember whether the court reporter's there or not, but then what happens?
That's what I'm saying. That's on
So
page.
then you say, I have to get this on the record, or,
No, we go back on the record.
okay, so how does that occur?
No, she just says, let's go back on the record. Simone.
So Ms. Hilton says, let's go back on the record.
Yes.
So you don't
Oh.
say, I want to get this on the record.
No, I just do my best to get it on the record when we go back on record. It's in the.
Oh, I see what you mean. You're doing, you say, you don't mean, I'm really trying to get this on record. You mean Miss Hilton says, all right, let's go back on the record. And then you try to like give a rendition of what occurred.
Yes,
Okay. And that is reflected where?
on page 48.
On page 48.
Well, between 47 and 48.
Okay. All right. And does page 47 and 48 reflect the off-the-record conversation that allegedly occurred between you, Miss Hilton, and Mr. Copeland?
There's a part where I say, so he can go to jail for anything but what? Okay.
Trucker D, I don't even know how to help. I'm writing down. I'm going to give you guys all my thoughts shortly, but let's just watch.
And okay, page 51 specifically, I'm asking, I tell him he has to make a decision. And I ask, so if he starts testifying today, is he going home today? And then I say, but if he says he don't recall to everything, he'll be okay.
Okay.
'Cause
Okay. So, at that point, between, whatever you said, 47 and 51, y'all are back on the record, right?
yes, Judge.
Nobody's like, declining to take down what you're saying?
No, Judge.
Okay, so anytime during that point in time, do you say, let the record reflect that Ms. Hilton, Mr. Copeland, and I had an off-the-record conversation, and I'd like to put on the record what was said during that conversation?
No.
Okay.
I
And
did these
also, I think,
crimes.
Chrissy, when I say, I think, are you saying you want to get up there on the stand and say something?
Uh-huh.
And then it's no response, because he just looks at me.
Okay. All right, so does 47 through whenever that last page number was, does that accurately reflect whatever was said during the alleged off-the-record conversation?
It doesn't accurately reflect, but it does. I do try to mention what we talked about, but it doesn't accurately reflect everything that we discussed.
All right, so was there something else that you discussed that you should have said, oh, and by the way, this also happened that you didn't say?
I'm confused, Judge. What do you mean that who didn't say? That
You.
Simone didn't say?
No, anybody during the alleged off-the-record conversation, when you're making this record, after y'all go back on the record, you said it still wasn't accurate. And you also said you weren't stopped from saying anything during that part. So what is it that you should have said that you didn't say?
Well, I guess the only thing that I should have said that I didn't say is that Simone said that she would not prosecute or move forward with any type of perjury if he said anything except for the unaliving of Donovan Thomas.
Okay, all right. All right, so when is it that you actually reviewed and read this transcript?
I really don't know. I think maybe around the time that I had to retain counsel, I think we reviewed it together, which I cannot tell you the exact date, but somewhat.
Sometime in late June?
Yeah, somewhere after 6/12.
Okay. And we all in this room know this to be the case, but you are an attorney licensed and barred to practice in Georgia, right?
Yes.
Okay. And as such, you have a duty of candor to the court.
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Is there any point in time after you read this transcript and thought to yourself, wow, that really doesn't include everything, that you brought it to this court's attention?
Big
The
question.
transcript was incomplete?
Big question.
This court, well, there really was no court's attention to bring it to, because after all that happened, it's been on recess for so long.
So you've been in court when we've been in session for the last week or two, right?
Yes,
Okay. So I was presiding at that point in time, right?
yes.
Did you at any point bring to my attention that you believed as an officer of the court and a participant in this ex parte meeting that the transcript did not accurately reflect what occurred in that meeting?
Oh,
Well, Your Honor,
oh my God. Okay. Just real quick. Judge Whitaker has an excellent point. Judge Whitaker asked her all these questions. And remember, the defense attorneys asked her questions. Remember, the prosecutor asked her questions. Now, Judge Whitaker is just like, you could see the setup. You're an attorney, right, Kayla? Yeah. You have a license to practice law here in Georgia, right, Kayla? Yeah. So you're telling me, Kayla, that you knew you have a duty of candor. That means the duty as an attorney to tell the truth. That means, Kayla, that at some point, as I've been presiding over the last week, you had knowledge that this transcript was not full. Is that correct? See the silence? Judge Whitaker's good. But here's why that's a problem. Last time Lead and I were on his side last week, we were talking about a Rule 22. Remember, we were looking at Kayla's outfit, the guys in the chat were like, yeah, got the looks off. She stood up and requested a Rule 22. Remember what that is? It is having media, like asking the court for permission to live stream the proceedings. Miss Sylvia has it, right? Kayla stood up last week and asked for it. Did Kayla stand up and tell the judge, as an attorney, I have some critical information. I have reason to believe that the transcript is not full. Judge Whitaker kind of caught her. And, you know, I've talked to Kayla. I'm rooting for her too. And this is hard. Like, you could tell she's nervous. So I do want to give her some grace from that respect. But let's see how this conversation plays out. But that's not good if the judge is calling you out on that. It's not okay. Let's keep going.
And I bring it to your attention, and I honestly still would not, as an attorney, if I can answer this as an attorney, I believe that there is some value in off-the-record conversations for specific things. And it has always been my position, even in speaking with members of the defense, that as far as anything minus the off-the-record conversation, that the transcript is complete.
Okay. All right, so what is your answer then to my question?
Can you ask me again? I'm sorry.
Did you ever at any point in time bring to my attention your belief that this ex parte transcript was inaccurate because it was incomplete?
No.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, because of what I kind of just said, I don't
Okay.
believe that it was incomplete per se,
Okay.
minus the off-the-record conversation, but there are a lot of off-the-record conversations I had that are not included in transcripts, and that's
True.
not unusual to me.
Okay. All right. So you don't actually believe it's inaccurate then?
No, I just think it's missing the off-the-record conversation. I'm not
Okay.
missing, I just think that the defense, I have knowledge of the off-the-record conversation.
Okay.
Not that it's missing from the transcript per se.
All right, that's better. Whew.
Because it was officially off the record. Is that what you mean?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. And did you ever, if it in fact occurred, did you ever object to it being off the record?
No,
Okay, so at some point you brought it to the defense attorney's attention. Is that how you decided to deal with it?
I had a conversation with the defense attorney. I don't want to say I brought it to them, but we just had a conversation
Okay.
about what happened.
All right, Ms. Love, do you have other questions for Ms. Bumpus?
Ms. Bumpas, did you tell any member of the defense about the details of the content of the off-the-record conversation that you had with Ms. Hilton on June 10th?
That I had with Ms. Hilton and Mr. Copeland? Yes.
When did you tell them?
The same day.
Did you tell them everything you remember about it?
I told them everything I remembered.
And do you remember how long after the conversation took place it was that you told them?
I don't know, maybe like an hour?
Was court in recess or was court in session when you told them?
Court was in recess.
Between the time that the conversation between you, Ms. Hilton, and Mr. Copeland ended, and the time that you told defense attorneys all of the details you could remember about the off-the-record conversation, was court in session at any point?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Was court ever in session between the time that you finished your conversation with Mr. Copeland
Mm-hmm.
and the time you told defense? What happened in the meeting?
Yes.
Court was in session during that hour?
Had court resumed?
Correct. Did court at any time resume from the time that you left the meeting in chambers to the time that you had the conversation with defense? In that moment, from chambers to conversation with defense,
Oh, no,
court had not resumed.
no.
And when you said earlier,
I mean, because remember, we came straight down here and sat down and immediately started, so I didn't speak to anyone.
and when you were speaking earlier about when after Mr. Copeland came in, you said you weren't sure whether I was in the room.
Mhm.
Did the portion about judge close your ears occur before or after Mr. Copeland came into the room?
For sure before.
Okay. And at that point, was the court reporter taking down anything?
No,
And at that point, did the court give any indication indication, did the judge give any indication that he was paying attention to whatever it was?
I can't answer that.
Did he give any indication? Did you see any indication that he was paying attention?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, you can.
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to him.
Oh.
So no, as far as you know, he gave no indication. She's asking from your personal observation. Answer it as to that. That's what she's asking you.
I would have to say no, but I would also say I wasn't looking at him at all.
Do you remember Ms. Hilton at some point talking about the judge closing his ears at any time?
I don't remember.
And with looking at the transcript at all, refresh your memory,
I'm sure.
okay? Would you take a look on page 26, line 5 of the transcript? And since it's a part of the record, read from line 2 to the end of line. Let me just ask you this. Do you see where Ms. Hilton says, Judge, you might want to close your ears?
Yes.
Did you hear that phrase or something like that said more than once in that meeting?
Yeah, before Simone got there, I know exactly what I'm talking about. So are you in here at this point?
So my only question is, did you hear that phrase more than once in the meeting?
I can't remember if it's that exact phrase, but I heard you say something to that extent, and I heard her say that.
Okay, so it's twice. That's where people are confused. And Kayla's standing on that. That's the reference in the transcript I heard.
That brought to defense's attention that there was in fact a meeting in chambers.
No.
Who, do you know, do you have personal knowledge of who that person was?
No.
How did then do you know that you were not the first person who brought that to their attention?
Because they asked me about the meeting.
Did they give any commentary to you that led you to believe that they knew what was said in the meeting?
Yes.
What did they tell you?
Is it true that
Sure. Yes, sustain. Can you be
Yes.
specific?
Who specifically came up to you and asked you about the meeting in chambers?
there were multiple attorneys that specifically talked to me at one time?
Would you please apprise the court of the names of those multiple attorneys?
Excuse me, objection, Your Honor. We're still far afield again of the limited subject matter that you asked me to stick to.
Your Honor, as it pertains to Brady or whatever information, I think is quite relevant. Who knew what and when, as it relates to what was said during the meeting?
Okay, well, I don't know if it's relevant who revealed that a meeting occurred. Ms. Bumpas has said that essentially, if I understand you correctly, that at some point during the day immediately following the meeting, the day of the meeting, you had a conversation with some defense attorney or defense attorneys, and we can sort out who, where you relayed to them everything you knew and everything you recalled about what went on in the meeting, including the off-the-record conversations, right?
Yes.
Okay. You can figure out who that is now.
Thank you. Who was it? Name the attorneys that you referred to just a moment ago.
Just a moment ago with the question she asked me, Judge Whittaker?
With one eye.
I mean, it's the same topic, right?
Okay, ask the question again.
Which attorneys by name first came up to you and asked you about the meeting?
See, Judge, that's two different questions.
Then answer the question Ms. Love asked you.
I don't recall, but I think Judge Glanville did judicial notice of me on camera. I don't recall.
No, my only question to you is who first came up to you and asked you about the meeting?
I don't recall everybody who was there.
Who do you recall?
I recall Attorney Steele and Attorney Adams. And I can't remember who's the other person.
Do you remember how many?
How many
Lawyers were there when Mr. Steele and Mr. Adams came up to you an hour after the meeting and asked you about it? How many lawyers were there?
3, I think,
Okay. Do you recall seeing Mr. Sharp? Just throwing out names.
at some point.
So Mr. Sharp, Mr. Steele, and Mr. Adams, within an hour, is that accurate, of the meeting, came to you and talked to you about what happened in the meeting?
I would say yes.
Okay. Other than Mr. Sharp, anybody else you remember?
No.
And when they spoke with you, regardless of how they got it, did they share with you any details from the meeting?
Yes.
And what details did they give to you that they already had before you started talking?
Objection, this is not.
Sustained.
Okay. Last couple of questions, Judge. Ms. Bumpus, when you agreed to represent Mr. Copeland, did you, during the course of the meeting that you had in chambers, did you ask questions of the prosecutors or the judge about what the immunity statute meant or anything like that?
Yes, I asked a lot of questions because I didn't realize until the end of the meeting what was actually going on. That information wasn't given to me.
That's all.
All right, so Ms. Bumpus, you knew to show up for court that Monday because Mr. Melnick had asked you to be stand-in counsel for Mr. Copeland, right?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Are you representing that Mr. Melnick simply said that and nothing else? He didn't give you any background about what you were walking into?
Well, what I'm representing is I was given specific instructions, and those instructions were I'm standing for him. If Mr. Copeland chooses to plead the fifth, which I anticipate he will do, then he won't have to do anything else. If he chooses to testify, we have agreed that he's discharging me.
Okay.
And I made that very clear to everybody multiple times that morning that that's what I was here to do.
Okay, but you had no idea that there was an immunity order in place?
No.
Okay. All right. Does anybody from the defense side have follow-up questions for Ms. Bumpus?
I have just a few, Your Honor.
Okay.
In your cross-examination, you said, quote, "She says she is not going to prosecute him for anything other than that one thing," unquote. What is that one thing?
I can't answer that. I can only assume it would be the unaliving of Donovan Thomas, but those are the words that she chose to use.
When you say unaliving of Donovan Thomas, what are you referring to?
I get him being killed.
During cross-examination, Ms. Love asked you about some alleged retaliatory acts. Were those being discussed when Mr. Copeland repeatedly said, "I can claim all of this, I can take all of this"?
Nothing was being discussed.
What do you mean nothing was being discussed when Mr. Copeland said, "I can claim all of this, I can take all of this"?
You heard that correct, mortgage
He
boss.
said that on his own, and that's kind of how the conversation started.
What was the subject matter being referred to when he said, "I can claim all of this, I can take all of this"?
Donovan Thomas's murder.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Anybody else? While Mr. Steele's making his way up, just so I am clear on this, you're saying that or are you saying that in the off-the-record conversation that you, Mr. Copeland, and Ms. Hilton had, that Ms. Hilton told Mr. Copeland that the one thing she would prosecute him for perjury for was if he got on the stand and said that he, Mr. Copeland, was the one who killed Mr. Donovan Thomas?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, and that she would prosecute him for perjury if he said that.
I don't know if she exactly said would, but she was comparing it to things that she would.
Okay. All right.
So I guess more of a highly possible situation.
That would be the one thing that
Yes,
could
Judge.
get him in criminal
Yes, Judge.
perjury trouble. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Steele.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to do timing or sequencing you were asked about. When you left Judge Glanville's chambers, after not bathroom breaks, after Mr. Copeland was removed from the chambers, et cetera, where did you go? If you,
I came and sat right there in the courtroom.
at that point, had you spoken with anybody to alert anyone that there was an ex parte meeting?
No,
Where did next time you saw Mr. Copeland was when? When you left the ex parte meeting, came into the courtroom,
up here. He was up here.
testifying where you're sitting?
Yes,
Okay. And then did the jury come in?
yes,
And did Mr. Copeland testify before the jury?
yes.
At any time during that moment when Mr. Copeland's testifying in front of the jury, did you tell anybody about this ex parte meeting that you attended
No,
or the contents?
no,
Okay. Do you remember there being a break at any point for lunch?
yes,
Is that the first time that you were approached
yes,
ex parte meeting?
yes,
True?
yes,
Did anybody, and that's after you were under no restraint, you told the truth?
yes,
And that was to myself and the other people you told?
yes,
True?
yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right,
Whew.
Mr. Sharp.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
After the lunch break, do you remember when I raised it before Judge Glanville?
Yes,
Did I do it right away after we spoke?
yes,
First time the court reconvened?
yes.
Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Sharp, come on up. And speaking of a lunch break, we're way past time for hours, so let's plan to do lunch right after we wrap up this witness.
Ms. Bumpus, were you in the courtroom when Mr. Copeland was called to testify after the ex parte meeting? Were you present in the courtroom?
Yes,
Okay, did you hear the Judge Glanville, did you hear him tell anyone from the defense that an ex parte meeting had occurred?
no,
Did you hear anyone from the state tell the defense on the record that an ex parte meeting had occurred?
no,
Was there any discussion about the substance of said meeting?
no.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Ms. Bumpus. You are excused. Let's take our lunch break. Let's come back. It's 20 till 1 right now. Let's come back at 2.
Oh Lord, guys. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Your girl's gonna get some lunch too. So I'm gonna quickly read over some super chats. What did we watch? We saw Doug Weinstein come back from our morning break with 10 seconds that he wanted to get on the record. And that was Lil Woody saying that the full transcript was not complete. Okay. Woody said that. Kayla did not say that. Woody said that. But the TikTok contained Kayla within it. Okay. And you guys know that TikToks are generally less than 60 seconds. Sometimes it can be like 2-3 minutes. So Weinstein, the only reason why Kayla took the stand is because Weinstein wanted to get that piece of evidence in. We needed to talk about the transcript and decide whether it was complete or not. Couple things. When a judge is asking you questions step by step like that, she's doing it because she wants to understand. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're getting all this stuff on the record in a clear and concise process. You guys are admittedly in the chat are not feeling Kayla today, her performance today. You know, again, I have a lot of respect for her. You know, I've had an opportunity, me and Lee to chat with her and get her accounts of everything that's gone on over these past few weeks. She also worked at the prosecutor's office at one point. So she was a prosecutor and knows Adrian. And that's what I was thinking about as Adrian Love, as they were going back and forth with the questioning there. I told you guys the last time we saw Kayla in this courtroom in front of Judge Whitaker was last week when we saw Rule 22. What is a Rule 22? That is us trying to, or anybody from the public can petition the court to have permission to live stream the case and to talk about the case. That I think was partially granted. She wanted her to share it with Miss Sylvia and didn't really see a need for another person to come in and have that Rule 22 granted as well. The judge close your ears thing is something that I was confused about because Kayla mentioned that Miss Love said that. I remember reading it on the transcript, but Miss Hilton had said that. Apparently, Kayla is saying that that judge close your ears statement was made multiple times, and that's what was going on. So that's your recap of the dumpster fire. We're going to be back with more. Lead was not able to join me today due to a scheduling conflict, but tomorrow we will be back over on his side. Let me get a few of these supers. Gonna grab some lunch, and I'll be back here right at 2 o'clock sharp. So make sure that you guys have your notifications on, and we go from there. I think we left off at Mike sending the Canadian buck, says, I'm enjoying the Fanny DA clusterfuck show. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. Shout out to Audrey with $4.99, says scrambling and scraping. That might be the next shirt. Shout out to Lord Vishita with $5, says I'm over 40 minutes behind. I'm watching this all sped up, trying to catch up. You're in for it. By the time you get here, you'll be joining us for the second session. Thank you so much, Lord Bashida. Green-eyed lady, new member. I think earlier I saw you ask if you were blocked here. You're definitely not blocked. I do that under super, super rare circumstances. Welcome to the community. And now you know you're not blocked. Shout out to Street Elevation. $4.99 says, I think Love and Hilton are going to resign after this. I mean, I don't know. Should everybody find a new job? What do y'all think? Shout out to Scotty A with $1.99 says, I could hear your lead saying, AKA King Slime. You really could. You really could. I mean, like, I did these crimes as another one. This whole thing is like, I need to recharge after watching that. Shout out to the Little Gaming Channel. Your stream sponsor with $10 says Kayla going to get her ass caught up. Chasing clout. I mean, a Little Gaming Channel's back with another 5, says Kayla, aka Miss Woody. Shout out to the Connect Sports Media. $4.99 says, so basically the state knew Bumpus was not a seasoned lawyer and tried to run a play, but blew it up. Well, that's the thing. They worked together. She was a prosecutor. Then she was a defense attorney. And then she was a personal injury attorney. So it's not like Kayla doesn't know what she's doing. She does. And I want to give her some grace here. Maybe that was nerves. Yeah, we definitely saw a different side today. Shout out to Andre C. Hatchet, $4.99 says she doesn't work for the defense. She doesn't care. She's out for herself, which is fine. I mean, it is. Shout out from Thinking from Texas, Whitney with $4.99. No comment, no question. Pure love of the game. It's so funny, Whitney. Now, when I see your name, I have to pronounce it like lead and call you Whitney. So thank you so much for the super, super generous super chat. I am so happy to see you on my side. And oh my gosh, you heard me call for help, Whitney. That was interesting to say the very least to listen to. Shout out to the Little Gaming Channel with another 5 who says Kayla is a disaster. Shout out to Michelle with $2 says, Kayla girl, you're in trouble. Oh my God, I feel bad reading these super chats. Shout out to the Little Gaming Channel with 5 says Woody was a better witness. Shout out to Dee Dee with 10 says Kayla should have contacted AV for a consultation before going to the courthouse. I mean, I want to say this is nerves. I want to say this is nerves, and we're all human. We go through it, right? We go through it. But yeah, thank you so much, Dee Dee. Shout out to Blue Dream who says Kayla was clout chasing. Y'all are saying it. Y'all are saying it. You're coming to your own conclusions. Y'all are the ones saying it. Shout out to the Little Gaming Channel. Another 10 says, are we sure Kayla is a lawyer and not a slime life chick? I mean, she did have a few interesting interviews for people that are closely rooted to the Young Thug family. I think she had the sister on for a conversation. So that was interesting too. Shout out to LT Harris with the 20 says, is it me or did Miss Bumpus just turn into Little Woody with this testimony, or is she helping the defense? She sounds bad at this and should have had more conversations on her lives. Yeah, I mean, when you do watch her channel, she's very articulate. She is very good at controlling conversations, all those things. She does a great job. So that's why I'm hoping that this was just nerves, but one never knows. Shout out to AMK with the $9.99 says this is clearly prosecutorial misconduct. Can the defense ask for a mistrial and dismissal with prejudice? I know the jurors want out the hotel already. Yeah, and the jury's not in the room today, guys. But yes, the defense has been asking for a mistrial nearly every single day, and it is likely that we're going to see another one tomorrow. They want their clients out of jail. They want their clients to walk away with acquittals. There's just so much going on here. We saw the whole Melnick thing this morning. I forgot about that because we're focused on Kayla. But yeah, there's so much that me and my team need to chop up for you guys and just issues that we can dissect. But thank you, AMK. Hopefully that answers the question. Shout out to Jay who says, I'm here for Kayla today. Not perfect, but good enough. Yeah. It does the job. Shout out to Little Gaming Channel with 5. Says, be careful of the clout you wish for, Kayla. The Little Gaming Channel is not playing. And at this point, your stream sponsor has spoken. Shout out to Dion Lewis with $2. Says, Kayla's credibility is shot. Yeah, you guys were not feeling this. Let me come over to Cash App. Shout out to Empress Awaken with the 10. Says, keep up the great work, AV. Thank you so much, Empress. That is very sweet of you. Shout out to Eleonora Bishop with 25. Thank you so much, Eleonora. And then last one I have is from Mixed Chick Sam. Thank you so much, Sammy. She sends 5. She says, man, buck Kayla. All right, y'all are done. Y'all are so done. All right, guys, listen. We are going to break for lunch. Those of you on the East Coast, it is about 12:55 right now. I'm going to go grab something, be back here at 2 o'clock. Maybe we'll cook up a different thumbnail or whatever. Stay locked in. Lead and I are not going to be going live on his side today. We're doing it here. And as you can see, we have one of the best communities, the best chat. It's a lot of fun over here. So I will see you guys in about an hour. Stay safe out there. This is a dumpster fire. I will see you guys soon. See you in the next one. Bye, everybody.